So, Catherine, how many councillors do we have in attendance at this stage?
Hi, Rochelle. We currently have 12 councillors in the meeting.
Great. Okay. It's 6:31. Okay, so councillors, I'm going to declare the meeting open. As you know, I'm Rochelle Porteous and I'm the Mayor of the Inner West Council. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal and the Wongal people of the Eora Nation, on whose country we're meeting today. I'd like to acknowledge their elders, both past and present, and their leaders, both past, present and emerging, and to say this land is, was and always will be Aboriginal land. Councillors, are there any apologies for tonight's meeting? No? So there are some councillors who are just running a little late. That'd be great. Okay. Councillors, disclosures of interest. I would like to make a disclosure of interest for item 4. I'll be declaring a pecuniary significant interest as my partner holds a parking permit in the area. So I will be removing myself from that item and obviously won't be voting. Are there any other councillors that need to declare an interest in any item that's on the agenda this evening?
Councillor Porteous.
In the meeting.
Okay, I've got Councillor Lachlan first. Yeah.
Go
ahead,
just
Councillor.
a standard declaration on item 11. As it mentioned, it talks about the City of Sydney extensively, and I work there.
Thank you, Councillor Lockie. Just to clarify, is that a non-pecuniary, non-significant?
Yes, sorry, it is.
Thank you. Sorry, there was another councillor that spoke.
Yes, Councillor Passes.
Yes, Councillor
I'll
Passes.
be leaving the meeting on 2 items in the confidential session.
Yes,
on reimbursement of legal fees and the code of conduct.
Okay, thank you. So you're declaring a significant pecuniary interest in those. Is that correct, Councillor Passes?
No, it's not a pecuniary interest. It's I have not had advice, but I'm going to leave the meeting and not vote on it.
Okay, thank you for Councillor Passes. Are there any other councillors that need to declare a pecuniary interest?
I need to declare a non-pecuniary but significant interest, Chair, in, I think it's item 4, the traffic report, the Bunnings matter. I have a close family member that lives in the area affected.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor. That's non-significant, non-pecuniary.
It's non-pecuniary but significant, I think.
Okay. Will you be staying and voting?
No, I'll not vote, which is the same as what I did last time on this matter.
Okay, thanks for that. Are there any other councillors that need to declare an interest? Councillor Steer, you no? Okay. Any other councillors who need to declare an interest? Okay, so we'll move on to the.
Sorry.
Councillor Cruz.
I think it's a non-pecuniary, significant interest in one of the confidential items about the panel.
Okay, so that's item I think it's 30.
The confidential. Yeah.
29, item 29. So it's non-significant, non-pecuniary, did you say?
Yep.
So you'll be staying and voting, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that. Are there any other councillors who need to declare an interest in any item on the agenda tonight? No. Okay. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is a moment of quiet contemplation, which will be for a minute. If we could now start that moment of quiet contemplation, please. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, I need to give notice that we are webcasting this evening. In the spirit of open, accessible and transparent government, the council meetings at the Inner West Council will be streamed live on the website and on YouTube. So by speaking at a council meeting, members of the public agree to be recorded and must ensure their language and their speech in council is respectful and appropriate. A person who uses defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language may be exposed to liability for which council takes no responsibility. Any part of the meeting which is held in closed session will not be streamed but will be recorded for the purpose of verifying the accuracy of the minutes. So councillors, we now move on to the confirmation of the minutes. And could I have a mover and a seconder, please, to confirm the minutes?
Happy to move.
Moved by councillor Cruz, seconded by councillor Hesse. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. We're now going to move to the public forum, and we have the speakers for the public forum. If you could perhaps bring them up on the table, Catherine.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, councillor Drury.
I believe that in relation to item 27, a notice of motion of mine in relation to mental health, one Matthew Howard attempted to register but seems to have failed. He's a passion on the subject and I'd like us to all hear him.
Okay, so that's for item 27.
I'm happy to second councillor Drury's motion in that regard.
Okay,
Thank you, councillor Hesse.
I think we have another, so I'll deal with that first of all. All those in favour of including Matthew Howard in the speakers list, please raise your hand. And I believe that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we'll now move to the first speaker, which is for item 1, the de-amalgamation yes/no case. And that speaker is Brian Halstead, who I believe is with us. Brian? Sure, I saw you. So I'll just check with Catherine. Catherine, is Brian with us this evening?
Yes, Brian is in the meeting.
Yeah, I thought I saw him. Yeah.
I'll unmute. Thank you. I've unmuted
Oh.
now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thanks, Brian. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the flyer that has just been made available, and therefore it's been difficult to make many comments. The no case in this flyer focuses on the Morrison Lowe report, which has detailed additional rate increases required by demerged councils due to increased costs. A review of the figures in this report claim that the demerged councils will spend 17 million more in employee costs to provide the same services as now. This would be more than 100 additional employees. Is this credible? How does this reconcile with the redundancy numbers quoted in the flyer? Morrison Lowe has stated in their report that employee costs reconcile with the prior accounts of the previous councils, but details of this were not provided. Looking back at the former Leichhardt Council, employee costs projected forward is 10% less than is shown in the Morrison Lowe report, so it is difficult to understand the figures. It's interesting that the overall surplus of 6 million in the last year of the Leichhardt Independent Council has turned into a deficit of 5 million in the figures presented for the demerged option. Is this credible unless it is explained? The no case should also detail the rate increases that may be required to bring the amalgamated council back to the required surplus. The yes case should note that the amalgamation has failed to deliver the savings promised in the amalgamation proposal, and the council has been running significant deficits as opposed to the large surpluses promised. The flyer should also outline the process after the vote, with more time is available to establish credible figures for the demerger costs. Morrison Lowe acknowledge that the timeline for their report was limited, and these new figures can be prepared by the newly elected council for presentation of a proposal for the minister to demerge. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brian. The other speaker we have on this item is Pip Henman. Pip is here with us. Is that correct? Yes. Pip, please go ahead.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor. I'm speaking to you from Gadigal Wangal land that was never ceded. For full disclosure, I'm running for Socialist Alliance in Darman Ward. Well, the Inner West Council is among the first of the forcibly amalgamated councils to allow its residents to have a say on de-amalgamation. In many ways, it's leading the way and showing that the community can and should be consulted. The fact that this poll is happening is a testament to the fact that residents involved in the Save Our Council movement have not forgotten this was forced on us and it hasn't worked. A new alliance called Demerger New South Wales Alliance has been set up to assist councils from Guyra in the north to Bombala in the south to Bayside in our west, who all want a poll to be undertaken in their local government areas. Tonight, councillors finally get to sign off on the yes and no cases after what seems like quite a long process. But we need to be mindful of where we are in this process. The poll itself, as Brian has just said, is still just the first step. If residents vote yes to de-amalgamation, in a majority, the incoming council will be charged with the responsibility to draw up a business case to be put to the Boundaries Commission. That in itself will take some planning, including consultation with residents. The state government has given a time frame of 10 years since the forced amalgamations for councils wanting to demerge to do so. While I'm not privy to the final yes and no cases councillors will be discussing tonight, I do want to make some comments based on the draft that was published in the papers. Councillors do have a duty of care to residents. If you're not happy with the way the communication has been written up, you need to say so. This is not being political or politicising the issue, as I've heard some councillors assert. It's about taking responsibility. If the information provided to an independent copywriter preparing both the yes and no cases is taken only from one source, in this case the Morrison Lowe report, that's not acceptable. Specifically, the information given to residents that includes a rates table that projects rate rises based on unsourced data should not be accepted. Just as the yes case could not project a table stating rates would likely stay the same or return to previous levels, neither can the Inner West Council allow for the no case to rely on projected rates based on unsourced data. Finally, the yes and no cases need to be the same word length. Paragraphs that purport to be adding information only, but in fact add to the no case, either need to be included in the no case or they need to be removed. If they're added to the no case, then a similar number of words need to be added to the yes case. This is the only responsible and honest way of proceeding. The poll question and a maximum of, say, 400 words, yes and no, should be enough for residents to do more research, get in touch with council or councillors to discuss it further and others, and to have a conversation. There is, of course, 6 weeks now before pre-polling begins. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Pip. The next speaker we have is for item 3, accommodation grant for deadly connections, and that's Carly Stanley. Carly, I know you're here with us this evening.
I am, thank you, Mayor. I can't see myself. There's something going on with my screen. So can everybody hear me and see me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Thank you so much. So I'm, here to support the motion. I'm Carly Stanley. I'm the CEO and founder of Deadly Connections, and more recently we were faced with an accommodation crisis, and we went public with that crisis, and we sort of put some pressure on Inner West Council and City of Sydney, who had been trying to work with since we established in 2018 to support us with the accommodation, and everybody really stepped up. So we just want to thank everybody for going above and beyond to try and find a resolution for us. It really has meant the most. We're busy trying to navigate the COVID pandemic like everybody else, stay responsive to the needs of the community while dealing with an accommodation crisis. So we're really thankful with the support that we've gotten, and we are happy to work with the council on the proposal. So we're for the motion, item 3.
Thank you very much, Carly. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is item 24 for Bunnings traffic. And the first speaker is Jack Breen. Jack?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks.
Please go ahead.
Great. I want to thank the councillors for your continued support on this really critical issue for Tempe. This issue is so important to us that just last week, we actually launched our own grassroots campaign on social media to raise awareness of the issue. And we've launched a Facebook page called Safe Traffic Plan for Bunnings Tempe. And this is to rally the broader community and help raise the profile of the issue in the mainstream media. We set out to raise $1,000 to get signs and banners for our homes professionally printed. And in a week, we've actually more than doubled that target. And the community so far raised $2,300. That's out of our own pockets. And I think that goes a long way to demonstrate how concerned the community is about the traffic impact of this development and how desperate we've become in having contributed our sensible feedback in all the right avenues. And we're just getting nothing from Bunnings or Transport for New South Wales, despite the really critical traffic impact and safety impact here. But we can't do this alone, and our grassroots campaign needs to be augmented with a prominent public support campaign from the Inner West Council in the form of a big public communications effort. I'm asking for your support in passing motion 24 and committing the full $25,000 to ensure that a full page ad can be taken out in the Sydney Morning Herald. Combined with our grassroots campaign, this will hopefully be the catalyst for broader media interest and put pressure on Transport for New South Wales and Bunnings to respect the local knowledge that the Tempe community and the council is provided here and accept the sensible solution we've given. It's so simple. It's just a signalised intersection north of the Bunnings to allow a single one-way flow of traffic through the site. And that's what Bunnings suggested in the first place. On this broader issue, residents have provided feedback on Bunnings' proposed amendments to the DA, and they're proposing essentially making the traffic management plan an afterthought. And I'd respectfully ask council not to support any amendments to the Bunnings DA without a safe local area traffic management plan being approved. The current LATM is not sufficient and will lead to traffic chaos and potential fatalities on our narrow local streets. Thanks again. I really support the council's unanimous support of this issue so far, and I really hope you'll vote for it tonight.
Thanks very much for that, Jack. Our next speaker is Juliet Barr.
Hi, councillors. I'm speaking to you today to support the motion that the Inner West Council should give some funding towards an advertising and promotional campaign that supports the residents of Tempe who are going to be impacted dramatically by a tsunami of traffic from Bunnings if the new Tempe Bunnings does not divert their customer traffic in and out of the highway. A council-funded campaign would really show Bunnings and the New South Wales roads and planning authorities that the Inner West Council is outraged that Bunnings should be given special permission to be able to commence construction without a satisfactory plan in place for their customer traffic. It will also show that the council is 100% supporting the safety of residents of Tempe and their families. As you know, the new Tempe Mega Bunnings is going to go on the old Pretty Girls site. Well, it is going to be anything but pretty. In fact, it is going to be really crazy and really dangerous, especially for the kids of Tempe who have to walk to school every day with thousands of extra cars from Bunnings streaming through the narrow and crowded streets. The reality is, if Bunnings don't fix the traffic plan, kids are going to have to wear high-vis safety gear to school, as it really is going to be that dangerous. And they already have to walk around cars parked on pavements in order to get to the entrance of Tempe Primary School on Union Street. I'm a seasoned campaigner for safety, for traffic safety for local kids of Tempe and Marrickville. I ran the successful campaign to get the pedestrian crossing across Richardson Crescent at Marrickville, so Tempe high school kids could walk to school safely. And then a few years ago, I did a YouTube video called Dangerous Tempe Intersection, which made Channel 10 news. The news story was about how semi-trailers were mounting the curb on the corner of Unwins Road and Richardson Crescent and forcing kids who walk to Tempe High School every day up against a fence. The kids literally would whack the side of trucks with their hands as they were pressed against the fence. It was lucky that no one was killed. 5 safety bollards were installed to protect the kids from semi-trailers, and all 5 were smashed in quick succession by trucks. This just proves that big commercial buildings in high residential areas can be a very dangerous mix when kids have to get to and from school, especially around Tempe. As a community, we have campaigned hard to get some sort of changes to Bunnings' plan for traffic management, but to no avail. We have had protest meetings at the planning panel. We have had suburban newspaper coverage, and I have done 2 YouTube videos interviewing very worried parents in front of Sydenham Town Hall as well as Temporary Primary School. But nothing we have done so far has cut through to the government decision makers or to the TV news. I am pretty sure that the reason that we have not been able to make the TV news with this campaign is because Bunnings are huge advertisers in mainstream media. But we have not given up. In fact, the residents of Tempe have notched their community-led campaign up a gear, and it's time that the council back them with some financial support by either running a separate campaign side by side or funding the community-led campaign. Residents of Tempe deserve to continue to live a decent life without being invaded by Bunnings traffic, and the children of Tempe need to be able to walk to school safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Our final speaker on this item is Patrick William.
Thank you. I'd like to speak in support of the Inner West Council providing funding for a campaign against Bunnings attempting to delay the LATM. First, I'd like to echo Jack and Juliet's view and thank the councillors for their support to date. You know, I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record. You know, we keep highlighting the issues that we face. You know, a lot of them are common sense. Union Street is too narrow, and the fact that there's an entrance to a public school there makes this a terrible idea. Now, my biggest concern at the way Bunnings is approaching this is there's a real possibility that if the LATM is delayed and they're allowed to commence construction, they will use that as grounds for legal appeal to say that if this LATM was so important, if Union Street, the safety of people in Union Street was that important, there would have been a bigger pushback, there would have been a bigger fight to stop Bunnings commencing construction first. And if we don't get a campaign out there, I believe Bunnings will have grounds to say, look, we spent $5, $10, $15, $20 million. They let us do it, and now they're telling us we can't use Union Street. So I think it's absolutely crucial that we get out there and we let the public know, we let the state government know that there is no support for what Bunnings is doing, and there is a concerted fight against what Bunnings is attempting to do. So I asked the Inner West Council and the councillors, please, we'd really appreciate your support as elected councillors in approving a budget for a marketing campaign. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Patrick. The next speaker is for item 26, Progress Pride Flags, and that is Jody Toomey.
Hi, yeah. I'd just like to introduce myself first. I am the chair of the council's own LGBTQ working group. And we think this, well, I think I haven't consulted the rest of the working group, but I'm sure they'd agree with me. We think it's a great idea. It follows the best practice and precedent set by City of Sydney last week, ACON earlier, into Pride and Mardi Gras. It also aligns with the council's own stance against racism by including Indigenous nations and other people of colour. It also shows a commitment to progress ahead of World Pride 2023, which I'm sure will see a large influx of international tourism in a post-COVID world. I was never going to take up the 3 minutes. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Jody.
No worries.
And our final speaker is Matthew Howard for item 27, mental health. Matthew.
Thank you so much, Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to speak on this important motion today. I'm speaking on Gadigal land of the Eora Nation and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I also declare that I'm a candidate for the Marrickville-Midgebury ward in the council elections on December 4. I really want to thank Councillor Drury for tabling this important motion. The motion recognises Mental Health Month, and calls on council to commit $5,000 to facilitate mental health first aid for organisations, volunteers and residents in our local community. We're getting better as a community at recognising the experience and challenges of mental health, and also acknowledging the barriers that people still face when trying to access mental health services locally. We're very well resourced in the Inner West. We have local groups like Headspace in Ashfield and Camperdown, and the community mental health service teams in Marrickville, Concord and of course RPA. Still though, there's a lot of stigma around mental health in our community, and people do still face barriers to accessing that support. We've really seen that over the past few months of the COVID lockdown. So many of the protective factors that are essential to people's well-being have been stripped away, and we're seeing increased levels of social isolation, anxiety, depression and more. It's important to acknowledge our frontline health workers who are working in mental health. They're putting their lives on the line every single day, and the health and well-being of their families too, to support the most vulnerable people in our community. Lifeline and other services have reached their highest numbers ever of people reaching out for support. Wait lists for counselling and psychological services are in some places now months long. Of course, many of the pressures people are facing around mental health will only increase and intensify as restrictions are eased and we open back up. So this motion does two things. First, it acknowledges the work of council staff in organising events and programs for Mental Health Month. And I really just wanted to personally thank council staff for all they've done to get those events and programs happening. It's, it's really difficult, I'm sure, and challenging to organise events and programs during this lockdown period. And I think it's a real testament to council and to staff that they're going to go ahead. It'll really help those people who are experiencing mental health vulnerabilities know that they're seen and valued by council. The motion also calls on council to commit $5,000 to providing mental health first aid training in the community. And that's going to make a huge difference to the community's capacity to recognise and respond to the mental health challenges we face as we're emerging from lockdown. I think it's also in keeping with the other efforts being made by council to really help build capacity within the community and build resilience too, by empowering residents to support one another. Lockdown has been really tough, but I think we've also seen the very best of people too, with neighbours looking out for neighbours, workmates checking in on each other. The whole community has really come together. And I think that this motion really allows council to give another avenue for people to support one another. It's a really great thing for council to do. So I commend the motion to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Councillors, we now move to the next item on the agenda, which is condolence motions. Are there any condolence motions this evening from councillors? Otherwise, I'll move on to my mayoral minute. So, councillors, there is just one mayoral minute. I hope that'll be something that we can deal with reasonably quickly. Apologies that it has come to you very late. As you will remember, we determined back in a couple of months ago that during the lockdown period, we would turn the parking meters off. The parking meters being those that are mainly located in the former Leichhardt Council area and those along King Street in Newtown. And the reason that we did that was because we knew that that was something that would help those businesses, even if they were only able to function in a very limited capacity, but it would also be something that the community would appreciate because people are hurting, and it was one more thing that we could do to show that we were acknowledging that wherever possible we were trying to meet the needs of the community and acknowledge that there are costs involved with parking, and where we can relieve some of those costs, we could and should do that. Since we obviously the determination was that go through until the end of the lockdown essentially ended on Monday, and therefore we've put signs on our parking meters to say that we are resuming the functioning of the parking meters and that people will now have to pay for parking again. Obviously, people have become very upset about that and very concerned that they see parking ranges which are now going around our main streets in Balmain and Roselle and Leichhardt. And they're not booking people this week, they're giving warnings, but they will start booking them shortly. And that's causing quite a lot of distress in the sense that council's not listening to the community. The community needs time, the businesses need time, and the best way to help at the moment is to do things like continue to leave those parking meters off for a longer period of time. So what I'm proposing, and I'm bringing it as a mayoral minute because obviously we have turned the parking meters on Monday. So if we want to address this, we need to address this quickly, is that in fact we determined to extend that period where we have our parking meters turned off until the end of the year, and which will give that time of recovery, I think, for our main streets, for our businesses, and to get the community back out using the main streets and knowing that they're not going to have that extra impost of having to pay for parking if they decide to buy things locally and perhaps eat locally, drink locally. So the proposal is that the parking meter operations would continue to be turned off until the 31st of December, and at which stage they would be turned on from January the 1st onwards. Councillors, I'll put that to you. Is there any councillor that would like to speak in this? I can see I've Councillor Drury has his hand up. I'll just check if there's any other councillors as well. Okay, Councillor Drury, please go ahead.
I'd like to speak
and
to
Councillor Stamoulis. Okay, so Stamoulis and Passes. Please go ahead, Councillor Drury.
Mayor, I would like to ask the staff what is the anticipated loss of revenue from this course of action?
Certainly. So I'll ask that to the General Manager.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. We estimate the cost to up until the end of December to be $640,000, up to $640,000.
And perhaps the General Manager, if you
sorry,
wouldn't mind,
640,000.
In loss of, it'd be a combination of, because you wouldn't be able to enforce anything in the area, so it'd be enforcement and parking meter revenue.
Wow, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Drury. Did you want to speak to that item, Councillor Drury?
Not at present.
Okay, thank you for that. I actually might ask a question before I move to the next speaker, to the General Manager. I assume that that figure is based on what the financial impact has been for the previous period. We've obviously had the meters off for a couple of months now, and you would have been able to assess that. You would have based this figure on that. Would that be correct? And the second question I have is, there are obviously restrictions on parking in the local area, so there would still be enforcement that would be within those parking restrictions. It's not unlimited parking. If you could just clarify that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, it's based on what we know. We can determine how much revenue we get for a period of time on main streets, and it's based on that calculation. We can't enforce the way the signs are. We can't do any enforcement in the area because the signs say they're for ticket parking. So if you wanted to do other sign, we'd have to change all the signs. So we can't do that. We haven't done that since we've had the meters off for the last 2 months. We haven't been to enforce those for anything. So there's the only enforcement that we would do in those areas if someone was parked in a no stopping zone or a bus zone, but not in the metered zones. So, and it's a loss of that revenue based on what we know we would normally happen and the turnover it would create.
Okay. Councillor Stamoulis and then Councillor Passes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome this mayoral minute. because as our businesses start to recover all over the inner west, which we're all hoping will occur in the months ahead, as our local economy starts to open up, we see that the businesses of the old Leichhardt municipality that are the ones mainly affected by parking meters. All other businesses will open up and aren't affected by this condition of parking, that is the parking meters themselves. So that is, I think that's a positive thing. One thing that I might suggest, Madam Mayor, is that whether or not we do a quick review after, say, 6 weeks, because as Christmas shopping picks up and we do want solid turnover, that this is still consistent with what our businesses and what our residents want. That is, the businesses want a good turnover of trade and our residents want to be able to find a park. And we want to make sure that this policy is working well and effectively, say, after 6 weeks. So I would leave that for your consideration, Madam Mayor.
Thanks for that, Councillor Stamalos. So I have Councillor Lockie.
I think I was next.
I was going to say, I think
sorry,
Councillor Passes was next.
Sorry, Councillor Passes. And then Councillor Lockie.
Supporting this mayoral minute. It was the parking meters that destroyed those shopping centres in the first place. And what about the other areas? Ashfield are paying double for their parking permits. They had no reduction or through COVID, or they're not getting any respite. And what about the other areas? It was reported in the news today that the Australian people have spent today $100 million in shopping, and 640,000 loss of revenue for a couple of months. I think is we can't handle that now. If it was an area of low poverty or low income people, I could understand that and I would support it. But it's not fair to the rest of the people that are paying parking fines. It's not fair to Ashfield residents in Marrickville who are paying high costs of parking permits. As I said before, there was no respite for them. And I think the money's out there. I think the area can wear it. And we have to pick and choose really who is needy and who isn't needy. We have to start trying to address our problems, our deficit. There's not a meeting that doesn't go by that people are asking for funds, and we have to be diligent and use our common sense in where we're going to give these funds. We've just had these people in Tempe that are fighting for their life, and they've been paying out of their own pocket for this fight against the state government and Bunnings. These people deserve support, and I don't think we should be supporting this mayoral minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Passes. So you're not supporting the mayoral minute?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Councillor Lockie?
Yeah, thanks. Look, I know we've spoken about this earlier today. My concern with having them, I won't speak to what it's like in Leichhardt and Rozelle and Balmain because I don't have that history of being across those parking meters. I do know with King Street and Enmore Road, having had a lot of discussions about this with the former business chamber that operated there, was they were always very reluctant for council to do anything with parking. In fact, reluctance not the right word. They were very against council doing anything to mess with parking in that precinct area because of the reliance on a lot of businesses for that turnover. There's a lot of retailers, a lot of cafes and so forth, which are reliant on new people coming through every couple of hours or so there. And I don't know if that's changed now that we've had the COVID situation, but my concern with going full boil into turning off the meters until the end of the year, as it might end up strangling that turnover right at the time when they really need it. I'm also very concerned about the impact that's going to have on traffic in the area, which is already a huge problem. Newtown's really well serviced by public transport, but if we make driving there the most attractive or cheaper way of getting there, then it's only going to encourage more cars in the area. And the other concern I've got as well is, of course, that precinct is split between Inner West and City of Sydney. City of Sydney have parking meters. I don't think they have any intention of turning them off. And so we would end up in a situation where we have one set of rules, City has the other side of the precinct has another, and that will end up pushing a lot of that, again, a lot of that traffic, a lot of that parking demand onto our side of the LGA and into the residential streets going forward. That said, I haven't had the chance to consult with local businesses about this. My understanding is, from having spoken to our general manager, is that there is actually a chamber forming there again now to represent the Newtown Enmore area. What I'd really like to be able to do is perhaps give in perhaps an in principle support of having King Street and Enmore Road having their parking meters turned off, but subject to consultation with those local businesses, particularly while we're still in this period where we are not enforcing those parking meters. We've got a little bit of time to actually go and speak to the businesses that will be most affected to just make sure that, is this actually going to help you, or are we actually unintentionally going to do something that's going to harm your COVID recovery? So I'm happy to provide words, but I wonder if the Mayor would, if you would consider that as an amendment.
Councillor Locke, I'd be very happy to take that as an amendment. I think it's very sensible because, as you say, that is quite a different situation down in King Street.
Mayor, could I ask a question through you to the staff?
When I finish speaking, Councillor Passes. So if you could provide the words to the minute taker, that would be great. Now I've got Councillor Drury, who's got his hand up and he hasn't spoken, he's only asked a question. So we'll come back to him. And Councillor Passes, you wanted to ask a question. I might go to Councillor Drury first to speak, then I'll come to you to ask the question, if that's okay, Councillor Passes.
Okay.
Councillor Drury. You've got your mute on, Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. May I first ask you, where would you see the money outlined by the General Manager, the cost of doing this coming from the council budget?
So, Councillor Drury, it's in the motion itself, and you're in the last line.
Sorry, I can't see that.
Okay, I'll read it out to you. What's that? Any loss of income from turning off the meters until 31st of December is to be funded as part of the second quarter budget review.
Okay, Mayor, to be frank,
just to clarify, you're speaking now on this item?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks.
To be frank, that's magic pudding style budgeting. That's basically, this is going to cost a fair whack. This is not a couple of grand to a local group to do something. This is $600,000. This is a lot of things which will need to be foregone. And just to say, well, the staff can work it out in the third quarter, I think really is not showing any leadership in relation to this. It is perhaps identifying a problem without providing any possible solution. I'd also take up the point made by the Deputy Mayor, is that I think there are some mixed views in terms of retailers about this particular point. And I think there will be some mixed views by residents. This does seem to be a little knee-jerk, a little quick to go to a simple solution without working through the ramifications, without thinking about or giving any guidance as to the impact of such a move on the council budget. And this is a very big impact. 600, over $500,000. This is not a minor thing. Now, if we want to have a long-term discussion about parking meters and the implications of that and what we need, you know, how we need to trim our sails if we're not going to get that money, then let's have that discussion. That would be a right and proper discussion. But this does appear to me to be magic pudding economics at its worst.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. You concluded your remarks? I'll go to Councillor Passis, who had a question. Councillor Passis?
Yes, how would the staff go about, the former councillor before Councillor Drury said that we'd like our staff to go and see what the business feel about this. Well, you'd have to speak to the businesses in Leichhardt too, and the other areas with parking meters. You can't just, it's just not Newtown. Are our staff, do they have the time to do this? They would have to be included too, to be spoken to by our staff on what they think about this. Thank you.
Okay.
Would I have an answer? How would that work?
So I'll put that to the General Manager. You might want to direct it to the relevant staff member.
Oh, thanks, Madam Mayor. I can answer it. So our economic development team would reach out via the various chambers of commerce. So, you know, we need a little bit of time to do that and have a conversation with them about it, and then work out the best way to consult their members.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Passis, we'll note that we are proposing a review, as was suggested by Councillor Stamos. That's been incorporated as a separate point. There'll be a review in 6 weeks' time to look at turnover and impact on local Main Street businesses. And of course, in order to do that, that will actually be all of the businesses, not just the ones in Newtown. So it'll include Leichhardt and Balmain.
This is by Councillor Lockie, wasn't it?
Sorry, the suggestion of Councillor Lockie was distinct to that.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Lockie was providing the wording to the minute taker, which was specifically about Newtown. I haven't seen the wording yet. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Mayor. To be quite honest, I think turnover is a more needed issue than what people are paying for parking meters. I think during the pandemic, when numbers were down and people around the high streets were down, it was valid to turn them off. But now I think it is the wrong time. How are you going to control people from spending 2 or 3 hours in a parking space and preventing the people that want to shop, want to pick up goods, etc., from having that availability with the turnover of the parking meters? I think this is, as Councillor Drury said, a knee-jerk response, and I think the amount of work we keep putting our staff to, going back and taking all the signs off again, and it is just quite I don't think the benefit is going to be there. I think you'll find it's going to be a bigger problem than the benefit that you think. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor McKenna. Is there any other councillor that wants to speak on this item?
Yes, Chair.
Please go ahead, Councillor Byrne.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I'm having problems with my camera just at the moment, so forgive me for participating in an audio fashion. I think Councillor Passos is correct that there does need to be consultation with the chambers of commerce and the businesses right across the LGA. I'm quite certain, and I've seen and heard the view expressed from local businesses in Leichhardt and Balmain and Rozelle, that having no turnover at all between now and Christmas and no policing of not having the 30 minutes free or the turning the meters off at 7 o'clock from now until the end of the year could have unintended adverse consequences for them. That's definitely true. I might make a constructive suggestion, which is that we extend the meters being turned off whilst consultation is undertaken with all of the chambers of commerce and businesses, with a report to be brought back to council, rather than making a decision now without any consultation with any of them as to turning the meters off for the next 2.5, 3 months. I think that might be a more prudent way forward. In relation to the expenditure, it's very significant. I note that Councillor Stamoulis, for example, and yourself, Mayor, are very regularly referring to the council's budgetary position as a reason for de-amalgamation. And I do think that it is hypocritical to put forward expenditure of $600,000 with no budgetary allocation. Let's be honest, what it should say is to go against the deficit. That's the truth. Now, that's not necessarily in and of itself a reason not to do it in such a crisis, but we should be honest about that, not just pretend that it can be somehow resolved through the budget review. And councillors who are proposing those sorts of motions should refrain from then using the budget deficit as a reason for the council to be abolished. So can I constructively suggest that we implement the extension, but that we immediately consult with all affected local businesses and the chambers of commerce to see what their views are about what would be most beneficial for the rest of the year?
Thank you for that, Councillor Byrne. Look, to be honest, I think that's actually a good way forward. I think my key issue was to basically leave those parking meters turned off because I don't think it's the right thing to turn them back on at the moment. And I wanted to give certainty as to the length of time that we will be doing that. But I would be happy to amend my mayoral minute to reflect what you're proposing, which is that we extend the period of the parking meters being turned off, certainly on Norton Street, Leichhardt, Darling Street, Rozelle, Balmain. We can exclude King Street and Enmore Road and Newtown, Enmore, if you prefer, Councillor Lockie, or we could make this one motion, which then says, we consult with the local Main Street businesses as to extending this through to December 31st, and to make a final determination once that consultation has concluded, with a report back to council. I would be happy with that sort of proposal to move forward. I think that's a good suggestion on your part.
Mayor, I'd be very happy to do that. My main concern was just that the businesses be consulted, and I think that captures it if we're doing that across the board.
So what we could do is just leave point 1 as it stands, so that they would stay turned off for the moment, and then we make a new point 2, which would read, council consult with Main Street businesses where to determine turnover and impact on those businesses with a recommendation to come back to the next available council meeting in terms of continuing this, to have the parking meters turned off until the 31st of December. Have you been able to capture that minute taker, Catherine?
Most of that, I've got what I captured on the screen. I just need to finish it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of the General Manager?
In terms of continuing continuing parking meters being turned off until 31st of December. So basically, when this comes back to council, we will determine whether to continue through to the 31st of December or whether not to continue through to the 31st of December. Yep. Yes, Councillor De Cruz.
Yeah, look, I think it would be useful also if we can actually look at parking restrictions without having to turn the meters back on again as well, if staff can also provide that report back in 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good idea as well, Councillor Cruz. So can we make a point 3 as well? And thank you, Minute Taker, for accommodating us here, that council staff include in the report the reintroduction of parking restriction signage on the main streets. Okay, I think we've captured that. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak on this item? So Councillor McKenna, you have already spoken.
I just want a question. I want a question. What do you mean by reintroducing parking restriction signage on the streets? We already have signage up there that says meter parking and it's certain hourly restrictions. What else do you want?
Okay, so to clarify, that is currently not enforceable if the parking meters are turned off. So it would be signage which says limit 2 hours parking or limit 1 hour parking according to what is the what it is in that local area.
Well, could I have another question then, please? How long is that going to take?
This is a report to come back to us. Yeah, to tell us that. But that's what it's asking.
To tell us how long it would take the officers to get new signage.
What is entailed?
Righto.
Yeah.
They've got nothing else.
Okay, councillors, any other councillors want to speak on this item?
Just
otherwise,
Madam
Mayor.
Madam Mayor, your point 1 may need to be slightly amended to remove to the 31st of December 2021. Just say council will extend the current.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so councillor said the period pending the outcome of consultation with local businesses. So if we just change that in point 1, Catherine, instead of to 31st December 2012, change to pending the outcome of consultation with business. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, councillors, I believe we have a mayoral minute there, which I hope reflects the good suggestions of everybody. On that basis, I will waive my right of reply and I will put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. So we have Stamoulis, De Cruz, Steer, Rossetti, York, Lockie, Macri, Hesse, Councillor Steer.
I'm in support, Mayor. My camera's just not working. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. Councillor Kiat. Councillor Passis, you're not in favour, is that correct?
No, I oppose it.
Okay. All those against? That's Councillor Passis. Councillor McKenna. Okay, so Councillor Passis and Councillor McKenna are against, I believe. So that should be 13 for, and 2 against. Thanks, councillors. That's carried. Councillors, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Before we start, I just want to propose a way to handle some of the items on the agenda. There's a couple of items that are urgent, and I think we probably want to deal with items 1 to 5 as well, as they are ones that we'd like to deal with tonight. So what I'm proposing is this, that we deal with items 1 to 5, then we suspend standing orders, and we bring forward items 10, 11 and 24, because I think we want to be sure that we deal with those tonight. 10 and 11 are economic development and the outdoor dining, and 24 is the Bunnings traffic motion. And that we also defer item 6, as that came to us last night, that document, and a few of the councillors have said to me that really there's not sufficient time to fully consider that item. I've spoken to the General Manager, and there's no issue about deferring that to the 26th of October. So I would like to move that way. I'll just repeat that again, that we deal now with items 1 to 5, then we suspend standing orders and bring forward items 10, 11 and 24, and that we defer item 6 to the meeting on the 26th of October. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
So that's seconded by Councillor Lockie. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Passos, are you in favour?
No, I'm against.
Okay, all right. All those against? All those against? Councillor Passos, you're against, yeah?
Yes, I'm against.
Yeah, okay. So that should be 14 for and 1 against. Thanks, councillors. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the de-amalgamation yes/no case. I'm happy to move the recommendation, and I'd speak to it, but I'll just take a list of any other councillors that want to register to speak on this item at this stage. So I don't see anybody with their hand up at this point. Oh, okay, Councillor Stamalos, right.
Mine
And
hands up.
Councillor Passos. Okay, so I've got Stamalos and Passos. Okay. Okay, councillors. Look, I am concerned about the flyer that we were presented last night. I mean, number one, obviously, last night is very late to be presented with a flyer which is going to be distributed to the whole of the municipality, and we really should have been able to have more time to consider it, and I'm sure that all of the councillors are feeling the same about that. I am concerned that while we've had it fact-checked by the ABC, I think that one of the really salient issues is the reliance that's been put on some of the documents, particularly the Morris Low, which does have limitations in terms of the ability for it to present accurately the situation in terms of what a de-amalgamated future for the Inner West could look like. I guess my other concerns are the current flyer is very wordy, very long. There's quite a lot of repetition in it. I had originally understood that it would be developed as a 2-page flyer because people will not read really, really long documents. They just don't want to know about them. So if you start producing a 3 or a 4-page document, people will lose the plot on it. Unfortunately, it seems that there wasn't a word limit given to the copywriter. So the copywriter has therefore produced a document which essentially is 3 pages instead of 2 pages. There's different ways this could be approached. We could remove some of the redundancy in the document, because if you have a look at it, there is quite a lot of repetition in it. We could remove the tables, for example. I mean, there are ways. I've spoken to our manager for communications, and we need to lose about 1/3 of that document in order to get it down to 2 pages comfortably. I know that there would probably be a lot of resistance to that. Some people will say that they don't want to change anything. It's got to be exactly the same. I understand where you're coming from, but in terms of readability, and good communications, it's not particularly ticking those boxes. Having said that, I will leave that debate at this stage and have a listen to what other people have to say. I don't want to presume that we would want to make changes, but I do think it would be preferable, is where I'm coming from. So I'll go to Councillor Stamalos now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our priority as a council is to ensure that the information that we give to our population of 200,000 is of the greatest integrity, and it does inform them. And it informs them as factually as we possibly can. Currently, there's some elements in the yes/no case that don't satisfy that. And I think that's where there's an element of concern. And in fact, Madam Mayor, I have an amendment here that relates to that. And the amendment is that given the caveats, methodology and data limitations expressed by the consultant themselves in regard to the impact on rates from a demerger, as well as the recommendation from the fact checker that an economist should review this data, that the rates table will be removed from the yes/no case as it would mislead our community. I think it's important that any information we provide now, it can be reworded, that both the yes and no case could potentially have increases or decreases in rates. We don't have enough information. The methodology is not there. The data's not there to support that in detail. I'm a little bit surprised, Madam Mayor. I've asked councillors from the previous Ashfield and also Marrickville area, and we also know in Leichhardt. I'm not familiar with this concept of a fact checker. I don't think it's ever been used. It certainly hasn't been used in the other councils, and it hasn't been used for such a purpose as this in Leichhardt Council, not in the many years that I've been around. But look, it's been done. But Madam Mayor, that's what I'm proposing, that we need a document of the highest quality to give to our people that informs them and lets them make a decision on the best information that our 15 councillors and our organisation can provide to them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stamalos. Councillor Passis?
Yes. Well, I think all councillors know that I'm not against the amalgamated council. I would like to continue. But in the interest of giving our residents, I went along with this whole charade, I will call it. The referendum on the Republic, I don't think was so problematic as this, and that covered all of Australia. I won't be supporting anything further on this or the expenditure of ratepayers' money. In the time since the amalgamation, I think, and I get out and about a lot and speak to a lot of people, I would say, I could not count on my fingers how many times people raised the amalgamation. People have raised the lack of services, the lack of council getting back to them, a million other things, but they have not, and that's not the cause. If they're upset with council on different things, that's not because of the amalgamation. We have enough staff, I do believe, and if we haven't delivered to what the residents expect, well, I don't believe that's the amalgamation's fault. So I cannot be supporting this anymore. Whatever goes out to the residents is not going to give them the information they want. So I can't support any of this anymore. I think we've spent enough funds and enough time on something that I believe is purely political. We've had all these years to pursue this, and with the amount of money we've spent on leaflets in this term on council, we would have educated the residents by now on the amalgamation in a yes or no case. So I'm sorry, I cannot support any of this any further. This is a farce. It's a waste of staff's time. The fact checker from the ABC is when I lost the whole issue. This is a waste of time. It was put up as a political, for political reasons, and the playing around with the case and the flyer is also political. So I won't be supporting any of it.
Thanks, Councillor Passes. Are there any other councillors that want to speak to this item?
Chair, I'll speak briefly if I can.
Please go ahead, Councillor Hesse.
Thanks, Councillor Porteous. Look, I don't intend to prosecute the argument for or against. I think we've battered that issue back and forth across the chamber or across the internet, and I don't think it would serve any useful purpose tonight. I just want to make one clarification in my support of the motion by Councillor Porteous, and I'm happy to second it, by the way. The clarification is that the person who fact-checked is not working in their, is not employed in their capacity, is not representing the ABC. They are employed in their professional, because of their professional experience, not to represent the ABC. I think it will be very incorrect and unfair both to that person and to the ABC to indicate that the ABC endorses, opposes, or any other way has anything to say at all about the de-amalgamation yes, no case. I say that because I care about the ABC like many of us do, and it is clearly not a matter related to the ABC. So I think it should be noted, we've got to be very careful about our language here. Look, I do, while I'm in broad sympathy with Councillor Stamoulis's concerns, I think it is simply, whatever regrets I have, I think really we've got to leave it up to the campaign in the community for those people who have a passionate interest in it for or against. Who reads it or not is up to them, and how they might read it is up to them. But I do support Councillor Porteous's motion in this regard. Thank you.
Can I raise a point of order, Mayor?
Yeah, I already know what your point of order is, Councillor Kidd. I need to deal with the amendment. Is that correct?
You read my mind.
Yep. Catherine, if you could put Councillor Hesse as the seconder for the primary motion. So we've got an amendment from Councillor Stamoulis. Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Macri is seconding that. Councillor Macri, did you want to speak to the amendment? You're on mute, Councillor Macri. I think that's a no. Is that right?
Not at this stage, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, councillors, we need to deal with Councillor Stamoulis's.
Yeah, I'll speak to the amendment.
Okay, please go ahead, Councillor Kidd.
I think I understand where Councillor Stamoulis is coming from on this, but I won't support the amendment. I think that we can definitely quibble about the estimates reached by the Morrison Lowe report, and of course we know that that the estimates that were reached about the amalgamation before that occurred were not accurate either, or they didn't eventuate. It is, I think, a shot in the dark, and maybe they wouldn't put it that way, but it would be very, very difficult for anyone, even with a very, very high level of expertise, to be able to predict it accurately. So I understand where Councillor Stamoulis is coming from, but on the other hand, they've been commissioned to do the work, they provided the estimate, and the fact checker has decided that it's worthwhile to include it. We could also quibble about, there's a point in the no case that says that we would have staff redundancies, but also that we would lose efficiencies. Now, that's very unclear to me how we would lose staff by de-amalgamating. We were always told that amalgamation would lead to efficiencies in staff. So again, I think people will read that and come to their own conclusions about, how strong or how much confidence you can put in those points. And that's, I believe, what the campaign will be about between those who are campaigning for and against de-amalgamation. But I think at this stage, we followed a process which has had arm's length consultants do work for us, and I would feel it would be going too far to be removing information that Morrison Lowe, the fact checker, and the copywriter have sought fit to include.
Thanks for that, Councillor Kier. Look, I might speak briefly to Councillor Stamoulis's amendment, as there doesn't appear to be any other speakers at this stage. Look, I very much agree with Councillor Stamoulis's amendment. However, I don't believe that we were able to do that at this stage. I will just, however, ask the General Manager to respond in terms of the timeline that we're on currently in order to get this flyer to the graphic designer and then to the printers and then delivered for the when the polls open. If you could,
yeah, thanks.
And whether or not we've got time basically to do this review with an economist at this stage.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Now, I've got to get it. So postal voting starts on the 8th of November. Distribution takes a good couple of weeks. We need to sign off on the document within the week. About the 20th, I think, is the day. So we've got to graphic design it and get it out. So there's not a lot of time to do further editing on it. It does take a bit of time to get the right thing graphic designed and put up and get it in a format that we want going out. So yeah, we are limited.
Yeah, and that's what thanks very much for that. That's what I understood as well, which is why I can't support it, because I think that it's critical that we get the flyer out in time for when people start voting. And if we're going to meet that deadline, we've really got to work with the material that we've got, which I'm not happy with. I think I've made that clear. I feel that it could have been presented a lot better. There's a lot of repetition, and I do question some of the points that are made, but it's what we've got, and I think we are better off going with that than not having material to go with. And it would only be improved with what the suggestions of Councillor Stamoulis, but we simply have run out of time to do that at this stage. So possibly, Councillor Stamoulis, you could bring that as something that we do, but not related to this particular flyer, because in terms of the flyer, we're simply not going to have time to do it.
Could I speak to that amendment?
You want to speak to the amendment, Councillor Passos? Certainly, yes. Go ahead.
Just your comments now saying we're in a hurry and you're not happy with it. How can we honestly spend ratepayers' funds and go out with a questionnaire that we're not happy with the questions and the information in the flyer?
It's not a questionnaire, it's a flyer.
No. Well, yes or no. I will be in my election material letting the people know that the yes or no case, the people aren't getting the full facts. We don't even know them. How can we, in all honesty, spend ratepayers' money on this exercise and the people are not getting the full facts? It's just not done. It is really, really irresponsible. Very irresponsible.
Thanks, Councillor Passos. Are there any other councillors that want to speak to the amendment? Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Stamoulis for a right of reply. So I'm going to go to Councillor Stamoulis for a right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's clear from the number of councillors that have spoken, there are some significant reservations with the material that is going out to our public. If there's any reason that we're elected as councillors, is to make sure that our public are fully informed, that the information that they get allows them to make a reliable and accurate decision. I've suggested that there's some areas, Councillor Porteous has, other councillors are in agreement with this amendment going forward. And Councillor Passos has also stated that she has concerns with information that doesn't have that integrity that it should have. I'm hoping councillors will support this. It's not a time issue. It's got nothing to do with time. It's about the best quality information going out to our people. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Stamoulis. Councillors, I'll now put the Stamoulis-Macri amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Stamoulis and Macri. All those against? So I think that's 2 for and 13 against. Is that correct, Catherine? Yes.
That is what I got as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor, so now we. Sorry, somebody spoke. Councillor Rossetti?
Yes, I'm against.
You're against? Yes, you recorded as
Okay,
against.
no.
Yeah. It's 2 for and 13 against. Councillors, we return to the primary motion. I'm just getting a clarification from the General Manager. Perhaps can you just get the clarification? Do we need to refer to attachment 3? Just.
Yeah, I think it'd be clearer for the public, Madam Mayor. We've got a supplementary agenda item 2 that refers to it, and that's on the website. And the wording, which are distributed last night, but Catherine sent around today, is attachment 3. That's correct, Catherine? That's your understanding?
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we just set a line there that says the wording as in attachment 3?
Yeah.
Yep.
So distributed to councillors, and yeah, if you had in brackets attachment 3. Yeah, as in attachment 3, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, is there any more discussion on this item?
Sorry,
Councillor
just
Drury, you
on.
want to speak? Is that
Sorry.
correct? Yes, sorry, and Councillor Lockie, you wanted to ask a question?
I did. I'm just looking at item 3 now, and I think that's the unfact-checked version.
Ah.
Based on what's gone out to us, and I'm sure the GM's general manager's intention was for us to use the fact-checked version. Maybe we should just say that rather than which attachment it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry if that's the case. I'll just.
So the council adopts the yes/no flyer, which has been fact-checked.
Fact-checked. Yep.
Yeah, as distributed to councillors. So we'll remove in attachment 3.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
My mistake, they've changed the order in the thing, yep.
Okay. So I'll go to Councillor Drury. You're on mute.
Sorry, Mayor, I was preemptively putting up my hand to vote for it. I'll take it down.
Okay, all right. Councillors, are there any other councillors that want to speak on this item? Okay, I can't see anybody else. Okay, so in that case, well, we go to the right of reply. I'm happy to waive my right of reply. So I'll now put that. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Stamalos, you're not voting for that, is that right? Might be absent, okay. Okay, so I think that's 13 for.
No, I'm opposed.
Against?
I'm opposed.
Okay, Councillor Passos against, and I believe Councillor Stamalos is absent. Councillor Stamalos? Yeah, so Councillor is absent for the vote. That's 13 for, 1 against, and Councillor Stamalos absent. Thanks, councillors. Moving on to the next item, which is item 2. Councillor Hesse, you were moving this, is that correct? Endorsement of the Cooks River.
Yes, Councillor.
May I second it, please?
And that's being seconded by Councillor Drury.
Yeah, look, I won't take a long time other than to say that I've been, on behalf of Council, our regular attendee at the Cooks River Alliance meetings for these last 4+ years. And I wish to commend the strategy to you. It is a litter strategy. It's not proposing that it's going to fix everything in the river, but I do believe it represents the good work of the Alliance, which has had a bit of staff turnover in recent times, but it's getting back on track. Staff-wise, a very, very small organisation, but one that brings together the goodwill and I think the cooperation of the constituent councils of Inner West, Strathfield, Canterbury, Bankstown and Bayside. I think the cooperation of all councillors is represented in that report. And I'd particularly like to thank Councillor Marianne Duggan, who is a Labor councillor on Strathfield Council, for her stewardship of this particular document with the staff, and can report from Councillor Duggan that indeed Strathfield Council passed it last night. So that's great news. I hope we can join Strathfield Council in that and really commend it to you. And I know that I will be putting it out with our community and I guess continuing to raise the importance of making sure that we care for a river which is increasingly loved, as people can see, in particularly during this the restrictions. And since people have been able to picnic, I have to say it looks like one of those French Impressionist paintings of people out there picnicking. It's really fantastic. And I know we have some greater, less restrictive operations now, but I suspect people will continue to enjoy the river into the future. Thank you.
Thanks for
May
that.
I say a few words?
I'm going to Councillor Drury first as the seconder. I'll go to you afterwards, Councillor Pastis. Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Mayor, and I thank the officers for bringing this forward. My apologies. I'd also like to thank and congratulate the Cooks River Alliance for the work that they are doing to improve the quality of that river. I think what we have all become increasingly aware of is that the health of our rivers is important to the health of all of us, just as the health of our trees and the amount of trees that we need to plant, the substantial increase in the number of trees that we need to plant for our health. And that's not to say that the health of the critters and the plants within the Cooks River are unimportant, because a key beneficiary of reducing the amount of litter that goes into the Cooks River will be those plants and the fish and the other animals and birds that rely on and interrelate to that river. I'm involved, along with Councillor De Cruz, with the Parramatta River Catchment Group, and we are taking a similar approach in terms of trying to reduce the amount of litter that is going into those rivers. And I suppose what we do know is that it is the water that goes down those stormwater drains that is a very key aspect of carrying litter into our rivers. I think that what we've seen is an increase.
Councillor Drury, your time's expired. Do you need an extension of time?
No, well, I'll just simply wind up by saying what we have seen is an increasing awareness of the things we need to do to have those rivers improved for us and everything that relies on them.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Councillor Passis. And I'll add Councillor Macri as well.
I don't know how many years that it's been since I've been on council and we've had discussions on the Cooks River. First of all, may I say that the report to council, I would commend the officer for this report. It's comprehensive, it's good reading, and I've learnt a lot. We I would like to know, has anybody in our LGA ever attracted an infringement notice for littering? That would be very, very interesting. I also know that the main problem, smoking has reduced. So I read a lot about cigarette butts, but smoking, the reduction in smoking is fantastic. But we have an obligation. Well, I think councillors are all aware of the emails they had this week about how our rubbish is being picked up and left on the street. A resident contacted me this week saying that the bins were emptied and half the stuff was left on the road and nobody picked it up. We've had motions come up to council about the bins in the parks not being emptied frequently. They're not frequent enough. So it all sounds good and it all sounds lovely talking about the birds and the bees and the fish, but we have to be serious too. And I don't think the rubbish that goes into the Cooks River is because somebody walks down to the river's edge and starts throwing their garbage in it. I don't think that's the problem. The problem starts with us and how often we sweep the streets. Are we issuing infringement notices for people that are not responsible, the dog walkers? And are we cleaning up when we pick our rubbish, and are we keeping the parks and the bins in the shopping centres cleared frequently enough? As I said, I commend the report that was given to us, but how many more years are we going to talk about the Cooks River and look for every other reason but not ourselves?
Thanks very much, Councillor Passes. Councillor Macri?
Thanks, Chair. Having been always down the park down there growing up, and I really appreciate the river down there, and it's really, from my football days when we trained down there, probably the worst time down the Cooks River was probably in the 70s. That's probably, I think, where it hits its low point. And it's really a credit to everyone involved, from the Cooks River Association to the Alliance to the Canoe Club, the mud crabs, all the volunteer bush care groups, all the cleanups, that we are slowly bringing the river back. I was only cutting one of my clients' hair who used to live on Wharf Road. And I said to him how wonderful it is now. I see people picnicking down by the river and taking advantage of it. And we laugh because in the 70s, you couldn't get near the edge of the river because it stunk. It really did. So the great, and he says, well, I remember, he said, my mother, she said, when they first moved down to Wharf Road in the 50s, the water was blue and people were swimming down there. And it doesn't take long for things to go bad, but it takes a long time to fix them up, and it takes commitment of willing people, and Councillor Passos is right, and everyone's mentioned that it's what we do on the high streets affects the rivers, because everything gets littered, gets washed down those drains. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the water trucks used to come around, used to squirt the rubbish. We used to water the rubbish down the bloody drains, you know what I mean? We don't see any water trucks anymore flushing the streets. I mean, those are the things that we really need to understand if we're really going to make progress. And, Mayoral wasn't such a bad polluter of the river. I think it was more up the Canterbury end, where all the factories were up along the river there. The other issue with the river is that those riverbanks need to be naturalised, because I was talking to another one of my clients today, and he said he was on the other side, looking across, and a young family were down there, and a young kid fell in the river, and the banks are corroded, and it was dangerous. That they had to point out where the kid was.
Sydney-siders to be allowed up the M1 to taste and...
Okay, so it was a big rescue situation. So we need to get that sort of work done, and whether we get waterways in there or someone, those banks, those rotting metal things are dangerous. So I'll just say we just need to put a bit more focus on that, and I hope that's done. And the river's great. The water play park has added a new dimension to the river's edge. It's bringing people down there, and we always knew that once we put great facilities down there, people will come to the river, and that's what's really delivered that.
Councillor Macri, I'm afraid your time's expired.
I'll finish. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Macri. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak on this item? Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Hesse for a right of reply. Councillor Hesse.
Thanks, Councillor Porteous, and thanks to all the councillors who've spoken. I appreciate all the feedback. I should say, and I omitted quite egregiously to pay my respects to the River Canoe Club at Marrickville, who, of course, commissioned this report in the first place, and particularly the President, Simon, and all the committee members who've really, in the last few years, got in behind as a very active community organisation. And also, as Councillor Macri has mentioned, groups like the Mud Crabs, the Mullets, and the many other groups and individuals who clean up the river on a daily basis. I agree with Councillor Macri, and I can report very, very briefly that the naturalisation of the banks is something that the Cooks River Alliance is working on very, very seriously, both as an individual organisation, but with the constituent councils, and with Sydney Water, who have more recently become members of the Alliance. We are hoping, with my Alliance hat on, we are hoping that money will be forthcoming in the next few years to replace the steel sheeting with naturalised banks. It will cost many millions of dollars, but I couldn't agree more with Councillor Macri. It's not just, of course, it's a very clear safety issue, but of course, aesthetically, I think we'll have a much happier result for the community as well. So we are looking for contributions from the state and federal governments, and hopefully, and I don't mind saying this in the lead up to a federal election, if there are any federal MPs out there who want to make a commitment from their party when they're elected to spend many millions of dollars, I know that our community will be very, very grateful to receive them and to do this important work. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor
Now,
Hesse.
any federal politicians are listening
Councillor
to our
Patsis.
council.
Thank
No,
you.
just
Councillor
observation.
Patsis, we've had a right of reply. We're now going to put this to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour, please raise your hand. And I believe that Councillor Byrne, you're
I'm in support, yes.
I believe that's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Councillors, the next item is item 3.
Yeah,
Councillor
Mayor,
Chair?
can I
Yep, go ahead.
move this?
Yep. Does it have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second.
That's
Great.
Councillor
Leave in
Lockyer
solid
seconding
words.
that.
Thank you, Colleen. I've sent words through to you, Catherine. If you could display that for the other councillors, that would be great. I'll start. Deadly Connections, as we know, it's an Aboriginal community-led not-for-profit organisation. It acts to disrupt cycles of trauma and address the overrepresentation of Aboriginal people in child protection and justice systems. Miss Stanley, who spoke to us tonight, she didn't mention she's been recognised by the Winston Churchill Trust to become a Churchill Research Fellow, and she's also been recognised by the AMP Foundation. She's doing great work in our community. And Deadly Connections has been operating in the West for around 3 years. And at a recent meeting, you'll recall that Ms. Stanley, she spoke in support of a cash grant from Council to Deadly Connections, which was supported by Council. But in the course of her remarks, she asked Council to consider the accommodation issues that her organisation was facing as a result of changes around Dulwich Hill and the Mayoral Legal Centre. And so I did ask that Council investigate this urgently, and I'm grateful that our staff have progressed this in a timely manner to address what Ms. Stanley referred to as their accommodation crisis. So the wording that you see there is effectively, I asked Carolyn McLeod to provide wording to proceed with what is discussed in the report around offering Deadly Connections the site at Enmore Park. I think that I hope that all councillors support this. The work that Deadly Connections is doing is urgent and it must be supported. We start each meeting by recognising that we're on unceded Aboriginal land. And it's the ongoing process of colonial government that causes the deep and traumatic social problems that Deadly Connections exists to fight. So we as a council, we need to support their fight against racism, against colonialism, and we need to pay the rent. We're on their land. We know that the Indigenous imprisonment rate is about almost 2,000 people per 100,000 adults, and it's rising while non-Indigenous incarceration rates are falling. So the imprisonment rate for non-Indigenous Australians is about 166 people per 100,000 adults. So Indigenous people are imprisoned at over 10 times the rate of non-Indigenous people. Deadly Connections also looks at out-of-home care for children. And a 2020 report found that there are currently 20,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children in out-of-home care. They represent 37% of children in the out-of-home care system, even though they only make up 6% of Australia's children population. So that is, Australian authorities are removing Indigenous children from their parents at 6 times the rate of non-Indigenous children. And many of you will have heard current Indigenous leaders talk about this as a new stolen generation. That's a real risk. We should support organizations like Deadly Connections that are doing the really important work, Aboriginal-led work, to fight against this scourge. I think the issues around Enmore Park, all of that is dealt with ably in the officer's report, but I'm happy to address any concerns in the part of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kett. Councillor Lockie.
I'll withhold for the moment, thank you.
May I speak?
Go ahead, Councillor Passes.
Yes, I would like to ask a question too before I speak. Do I see in this report that Deadly Connections are to be responsible for the air conditioning and the connection of internet phone lines, water, electricity, etc.?
Is that a question to the General Manager?
Do I read that
officer? You want a clarification on that?
Yes.
I'll put that to the General Manager or the relevant member of staff.
Yes, through the Mayor. There is not the connection of the water and the electricity, but it would be for the ongoing payment of the water and the electricity bills, which is what all the tenants that are entering into new agreements are responsible for. At the moment, we don't believe that the facility is connected to the NBN, which is the internet connection. And to get that sorted in the short turnaround time since I've prepared the report, I was not able to find out the costs or the time it would take to get that done. And so there's other alternate options for people to use mobile phones or 5G data for the internet for those access.
Okay, thank you. Well,
did you want to speak to the item, Councillor Passes?
Yes, I endorse this wholeheartedly. However, it's a council building and I believe it should have air conditioning. I don't think that the Deadly Connection should be responsible for air conditioning. You can't lease out or open up a premises for people to go into if it doesn't have all the basics. So I don't see why they should have to be responsible for air conditioning. I would like to move an amendment that we also supply the air conditioning. You must.
Yeah, I'll accept that amendment. Thank you, Councillor Passes.
You must, as with private rental or hiring, the premises must be fit for purpose. And it's not like we're doing them a favour or we're saying, here's a shack, you can have it. There has to be some respect here. And to say that they're up for these costs and to say that we're spending $30,000, that should have been spent anyway. The premises should be fit for purpose now. So I'm not quite sure about the internet connections or what will cost. I'm no good on all that type of thing. I can understand them maybe having to pay for water or electricity, which I don't know why. Do other hirers of our premises do that? Are the people using Thurnin Villa paying that? Are they paying the power bills and the water bills? Why is it any different here? So I think we should go back and look at that. I think the air conditioning should be supplied by council and the premises should be fit for purpose. And this group, Deadly Connections, that are using these premises should be treated like anybody else.
Thank you for that, Councillor Passes.
Yeah,
So
can I just say I'll accept
Yeah.
that, and I'll just very shortly comment. Having read the report, I understood that the council officers would continue to work with Deadly Connections on these kinds of issues, and that we hadn't really settled on a position because, as Carolyn mentioned, it sort of is an evolving process. But I take the point, and I think it's worth going in that direction.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Kett. I've got Councillor Drury and Councillor McKenna and Councillor De Cruz. Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would particularly like to thank and congratulate Carolyn McLeod and the staff who have worked on this issue for some time. I know it has not been easy, and to be able to offer Deadly Connections, I think in this instance, a 12-month venue hire agreement is a great step forward. Deadly Connections is an important and valuable community organisation that provides service and support in the Inner West and also the city. I think the second part of the resolution goes to the questions of expressions of interest on all of that. There's not a firm position taken, things are noted. I'd actually prefer us to, as I said, in relation to Pratton Park, I would prefer us to determine as a council what we would want that building to be used for in a medium to long-term sense. I would like us then to go to an expression of interest process where organisations who might meet what we decide that building should be used for to put up their hand, and for us to actually have that sort of process. I think that that is a better way forward in terms of dealing with these situations. I take note of the legal advice in relation to Crown land. And I get, in the past, I've suggested organisations go in without expressions of interest, but now I'm of the view that what we should be doing with council buildings is first determining what we want them used for. If it is a social purpose linked to our social plan, then let's say that. Or if we want to make money out of it, and there is no
Councillor
shame.
Drury, your time has expired. Did you want an extension?
Yes, please.
I'll move an extension of 1 minute for Councillor Drury. Do I have a seconder? Councillor
I'll second.
seconding. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Please go ahead, Councillor Drury.
Yeah, and so, you know, if we determine that we want to make some dough, then that's good. I actually think we need to, as I mentioned last time, improve the way we deal with council properties like this. We need to systematically go through, determine what they should be used for, get expressions of interest, and then be putting people on proper leases that we actually maintain their currency such that we do not have so many organisations on month-to-month leases.
Thanks for that, Councillor Drury. Councillor McKenna?
Well, firstly, I'd like to actually have explained there were 10 points in the recommendation in the council papers. So it's unclear to me because I can only see 6 on the screen and now 7. Which ones Councillor Kiat has removed? That would be helpful if he could tell us, because this is a very long motion and it's really hard to work out what's changed. Secondly, I support everything that Councillor Drury has said. The issuing of a lease, it seems that Councillor Kiat thinks this happens in 5 minutes. It's not like getting a lease at to rent a house. This takes a long time, and there's a huge backlog of leases, and there's a lot of work to be done even before we can offer the 12 months. What was it called? The 12 months venue hire agreement. There's a long time before that can even be offered, because there's a lot of work to be done, which is clearly articulated in the report. So what are we doing? Trying to bring it forward closer? Maybe Councillor Kiat can answer that question for me and tell me what is taken out of the 10 points that are currently in the report. Thanks.
So you're putting that question to Councillor Kiat. Councillor Kiat, could you just explain the changes you've made to the original motion?
Yeah, so I think, sorry if I didn't make this clear in my speech. I asked the officers to provide me this wording. So I did not draft this. It was emailed to me by Carolyn Cloud, apart from the 7th point, which was added by Councillor Passis. I asked, how do we proceed? The report discusses the possibility of entering into an agreement with Deadly Connections around this site to offer them a solution to their accommodation issue. And I said, how do we proceed? Because what the officer's recommendation is not a recommendation, it's just noting various points. And so I said, how do we proceed? And this is what came back. So apart from that, if you want further explanation of that wording, I think you should direct that to Caroline. Thanks.
So just to clarify, the motion in front of us is points 1 to 7 as it presents. There are no other points apart from 1 to 7 now.
Right. And points 1 to 6 were drafted by the officers.
Yes, and 7 is the addition of the air conditioning. Is that clear, Councillor McKenna?
Yes, it is, but it would be useful if we knew these things before the meeting. It really is tiresome that we have to deal with this at the meeting.
Fair enough. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Councillor McKenna, or no? Councillor De Cruz.
Yeah, look, I've rethought about the air conditioning, but you know my position on air conditioning, that we should use it sparingly, but I imagine we need air conditioning in there for heating. So reverse cycle air conditioning is quite an efficient use. And look, I think I don't agree with Councillor Drury and McKenna about talking about delegating some sites as revenue raising commercial leases and some sites as community based. I understand this site was due to be demolished. And so I think the issue is that we need to be flexible. I mean, I'm aware that there's a pump house in Balmain that's been sitting empty looking for a tenant. So I think we really do need to be flexible, and I express concern also with our investment strategy, optimistically hoping that we would find another fantastic property like the Tempe storage facility that would generate $4 million a year in revenue. So I think it's really, really hard to have strict rules, but I mean, we can have policies that look at the implications. I mean, it's no use setting out that we're going to predict. I mean, we try and estimate how much revenue we're going to get from the parking meters or the fines on Norton Street, but it's only an estimate, it's only a prediction, so we're modelling. So I don't think we can actually work really hard to say we need a commercial tenants or community tenants, because there's huge value in providing services to our community. I think that having hard and fast rules saying we have commercial tenants, I mean, I think there's a big problem in considering that our community centres are being handed over to commercial tenancies, and that's happening, I think, at some of our other locations to the exclusion of our community being able to use these facilities. So these facilities are for the community, and that could well be our primary function. And we should think very, very carefully of making community facilities financial, commercial operations. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor De Cruz. Is there any other councillor that wants to speak on this item? I might just say a couple of words briefly. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to Deadly Connections and Carly Stanley for the work that you're doing in the community. I think the fact that council is able to support you in any way that we can is perhaps some of the most valuable work that we can do as a council. And I think particularly during this pandemic, we have realised that the structure and the foundation of our society and our community is very much held up, not just by council on its own, but by wonderful organisations like Deadly Connections and many of the other not-for-profit organisations which are doing a lot of that heavy lifting for us in these difficult times and working with those in the community that are most at risk. And we thank you very, very sincerely for that work that you do. It's absolutely critically important. I also want to acknowledge Carolyn McLeod and her team because, again, they've done sterling work here. We had an urgent situation which we needed to resolve quickly, which was to find accommodation for Deadly Connections, and it was approached by Carolyn and the team, and in fact by the whole of council in a very professional and compassionate way, and a solution was found, which I think is to commend council staff in that regard. I'm pleased that we do have an outcome, and I'll certainly be following through as mayor to make sure that the place works for Deadly Connections and that they are getting all the assistance that they need from council to ensure that the transition from their current premises to their new premises works as seamlessly as possible. So councillors, if there's no other councillor that would like to speak on this.
Yeah, I'd like to speak briefly, Chair.
Yeah, please go ahead, Councillor Byrne.
Thanks very much for that. I just wanted to acknowledge Carly's advocacy and hard work to achieve this outcome. Let's be honest, it's often very difficult for Aboriginal community organisations to get the ear of government. Carly contacted me quite some time ago, probably a couple of years ago, asking for assistance. She was put onto me by an old friend of mine, Jack Manning Bancroft, the founder of AIM, who let me know that this was a terrific community organisation that needed support and to maintain a home in the Inner West. And I asked council officers at the time to meet with her and to discuss options. As we all know, it's not always easy to find a council property available, even for an organisation as patently valuable and important as this. One of the reasons that it's so important that Carly's continued to fight so hard to keep Deadly Connections in the Inner West of Sydney is that we know that the work that they do is based on local networks, rapport, respect between individuals. You can't transplant Deadly Connections into another part of Sydney and hope that it will have the same impact. Those relationships and those connections are built up over time. And we know that young people from disadvantaged backgrounds and Aboriginal young people in particular have had a lot of life experiences that have caused them to distrust government services. And that's why NGOs such as this are so important. So I'm really grateful and pleased that the council has been able now to find not just a property, but a property in a very good location that will mean that Deadly Connections becomes an even more important part of the Inner West community into the future. Having spent my working life before coming into politics, working with disadvantaged young people across the inner city, including being the manager at Glebe Youth Service, I know just how hard people like Carly have to fight in order to get a fair crack and to get access to a property such as this. And it's a real credit to her and all of the other activists and community members who've been supporting her fight that this has come about. So what an excellent outcome, and thanks very much to everyone who's helped to make it happen.
Thanks for that, Councillor Byrne. Councillors, if there's no other councillor that wants to speak to this item, I'll go to Councillor Kett for a right of reply. Councillor Kett.
Yeah, look, I just want to echo the gratitude expressed by Councillors Porteous and Byrne, and I'm confident that we'll build a strong relationship with Deadly Connections as council and support them to continue doing the amazing work that they do and strengthen First Nations communities in our area. That's what we want to see out of this, and we're really hopeful for their success. Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kett. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And I believe that's unanimous. Is that what you have as well, Catherine?
That is.
Unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Councillors, the next item is item 4, which is the Traffic Committee. I'm now going to remove myself from this item, and I'll hand over to Councillor Lockie, the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Ma'am. I'm happy to move the recommendation of the council officers with the amendment that I've sent through to the minute keeper, Catherine, which is just that the Mayor right to Transport for New South Wales to raise concerns with WestConnex widening the road at the intersection of Victoria Road and Towell Street, Rozelle. That's noted in general business under item 4. Councillor Macri raised that at the Traffic Committee on behalf of the Mayor, and I think it's worth putting a formal letter over to Transport for New South Wales to support the council officers' efforts to push this issue because of the conflict between pedestrians and traffic and so forth. Do we have a seconder for the minutes?
I'll second it. This is Councillor.
Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Steer?
Yes, and I have an amendment as well. I'm sorry, Catherine, I haven't put through to you, but it is in relation to item 2, which is Balmain East Precinct parking study. I would like to move the amendment that the study be accepted except for recommendation 13. Now, recommendation 13, which I don't have in front of me, is that it is to the effect that only one parking permit per dwelling be given out. And while this is consistent with how parking permits are handled, in that area there are a lot of rental places and share houses, and therefore people can't share the same parking permit, or they're not households where people are related to each other, and therefore limiting a household to one parking permit per household in those circumstances makes it difficult for other people in the same dwelling to park there.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that amendment?
Councillor Lockie.
Yes, so Councillor Stamos, would you like to second that amendment?
No, I'm not going to second that. I'm going to speak to the issue if I could.
Well, we have to deal with the amendment first. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Steer's amendment? Councillor De Cruz, sorry, would you like to speak to this?
No, that's fine, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I might put this one to the vote, Councillor Steer, just so we can deal with this. Do I have any other speakers to this amendment?
Just to clarify,
could we see
that all recommendations be.
Sorry, I've got to, can I get Councillor Hesse first and then Councillor McKenna, please?
Just to clarify that all recommendations be accepted, except, sorry, it doesn't make literal sense.
It should be accepted,
Accepted?
ACTED. That all recommendations be accepted.
Yes, except, okay, good, now I'm clear, thank you.
Yes, yes. It is a difficulty with the English language and the spelling. So,
Councillor McKenna. Are you happy with that? Councillor McKenna?
Well, we are accepting the minutes. I can't see recommendation 13. Can you take me to it where it is, please?
No, I can't.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense because you're talking about the Balmain East Precinct parking study?
Yes,
I'm talking about?
Yes, I haven't seen the parking study, unfortunately.
Councillor McKenna, would you like to put a question to the officers about that? Councillor McKenna, would you like to put a question to the officers?
All right, yes, please.
I'll put that through to the officers. If it was, is the question to clarify what recommendation 13 is?
Well, yes, I don't know what it is.
That's fine. I'll put that to the relevant officers.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor McKenna. Recommendation 13 says transition to permit zone type A within Balmain East, where households would only be eligible for one parking permit transferable up to 3 nominated vehicles registered to that address plus visitor permits. Households with 1 or more spaces are not eligible for permits. So what that would mean is households that are currently eligible for 2 permits would be transitioning to 1. So that is the recommended change. It is identified as a low priority item.
I can't find it in the minutes though. That's my problem. Is that actually in the minutes?
I'll put that to the relevant officer.
Through the chair, it's identified in the report. And the report says that items 4 to 12 be implemented with further engagement and is in fact silent on recommendation 13.
Oh, thank you. I'm still at a loss. I'm confused. But anyway.
Well, this is Councillor
Sorry,
Steer.
Councillor Steer, but
sorry, I do have a question on the basis of that. If the recommendation is silent on recommendation 13, does that mean that if we approve the report, the recommendation as is with no reference to recommendation 13, that it won't go ahead?
Through the chair,
relevant officer.
Through the chair, that would be my understanding. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Councillor Steer, do you still want to put your amendment?
I think I still will put the amendment, but understanding that, just to make sure.
It appears to be just giving clarity to that.
Just give clarity to it, yeah.
Do I have any other speakers on this amendment? Councillor Drury?
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure it does give clarity. I, like Councillor McKenna, don't know what item 13 is.
It's actually item 1. It's item 2, I mean. It's item 2, the Balmain East Precinct parking study. And yes, there is some blur, but the officer's recommendations there do not refer to item 13.
In which case,
Councillor Drury, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation in relation to this, and I would see the amendment as being at best confusing.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Do I have any other speakers to the amendment?
I will speak to it. I was
Thanks,
only
Councillor
asking
McKenna.
a question before.
That's fine. I appreciate that.
I think it's possible in an area like Balmain, which has, as the reports I read somewhere, and I can't remember whether I read it in here or where, but they have more parking permits than parking spaces. It's just ludicrous to keep insisting that these people can have more than the rest of the community. We have to go with what the officers are recommending and stick with it for once. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. Any more speakers to the amendment, or can I go to Councillor Steer for her right of reply?
I'd like to say a few words.
Councillor Passis?
I've just caught on what this is all about. I couldn't understand it. I have to agree with Councillor McKenna. The Ashfield parking permit policy that we have does not give half of what people in Balmain and over there are receiving. We don't receive anything that they get. And how can you give out more parking permits just ad hoc like that? It just doesn't work. I cannot support this. This is wrong, and we need to go back, and there needs to be a uniform policy on parking permits. I've always opposed parking permits, but we don't have, in Ashfield, we don't have carers, we don't have tradesman permits, we don't have visitor permits, and now you're asking for more permits for places that are light years ahead of us over on this side. You can't be addressing these issues ad hoc like we're doing this evening. It's wrong.
Okay, so we've had a number of speakers to this amendment now. Are there anyone else who wishes to speak to this?
Yes. Councillor Lockie?
Councillor Stamoulis?
Look, I think it's very important that that we don't do amendments on the run in a fashion like this. We have a couple of areas in the municipality, certainly spread across all three of the previous council areas that are quite complex.
In your life.
Sorry, Carolyn, I think you're not on mute. Can you go on mute, please? Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Stamoulis, please continue.
We've got a number of areas across all three of the old municipalities that are very, very complex. Councillor Lockie, in your own area, you know what that's like. And similarly, in the Balmain area, we have them. This is one. I would have preferred in the first instance that Balmain East and Balmain Peninsula wasn't one of the early studies. It would have been better had we have done some studies in some of the well, I don't think we've got any easy areas in our municipality, but some with the wider streets and more parking availability, because I think we're ending up with a report here that isn't satisfying our prime objective, and that is to make sure that our residents and our community have the best parking outcomes and options available to them. And therefore, we're moving on the run here without understanding some of those deeper policy issues and deeper issues about how parking permits and parking works in this particular area. And it will start affecting other areas too. I'm putting forward an amendment afterwards saying that we should continue to defer the Balmain East parking study. We haven't got it right. There's a lot of problems. Councillor Porteous, Councillor Byrne and I know that a lot of queries and concerns are still coming through from our residents who want this deferred. So I'll be moving that afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, do I have any further speakers to this amendment, or can I go to Councillor Steer for her right of reply?
Mayor, I'm going to withdraw this amendment after all of that.
Okay, withdrawn, done.
The best thing to do. And particularly with the officer's reassurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steer. Okay, moving on with the debate to, we're back on the primary motion now. Do I have any speakers to the primary motion, or Councillor Stamoulis, would you like to move your amendment now?
I'll move that. Thank you, Councillor Lockie.
Okay. Would you like to speak to that amendment?
Yes, look, I'll briefly speak to it. Fellow councillors, we'll be addressing, as I said before, parking studies in a number of areas where there's great complexity, and I'll certainly be relying on those councillors in those areas to give me feedback and a feel for what's going on in your areas, and where there's broad consensus amongst councillors of Ashfield or Stanmore or Marrickville. I'll take your advice on those issues. And I'm hoping tonight that councillors take the advice of Balmain councillors in this particular area, where we are still getting significant emails, significant level of concerns, saying that this is not ready yet, and that there's a number of issues and technicalities that still need to be resolved to get the best outcome for our community. That's ideally what we would want in Balmain. It's going to be what councillors will want in other areas, and I'll certainly be open to those councillors in those areas to get the best result for your community and your peoples. And in this case here, we are still getting the high level of concern through about this study. Thank you, councillors.
I'll second that amendment.
Great. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Byrne?
No, I concur with Councillor Stamos' remarks.
Great. Okay. Councillor McKenna, did you wish to speak to this amendment?
I will speak to it. This was first dealt with at the Traffic Committee back in March. It was deferred to allow the ward councillors to be briefed. I believe that has happened. It's now brought back again. This is October. And just going back a little, you might remember that we tried to harmonise the various traffic and issues a year and a half or so ago, and that didn't happen. In the former Leichhardt Council area, they have a different set of rules and regulations in relation to parking. So I think we have reached a time. This now has been on the agenda basically for 8 months. It needs to be resolved, and I think I'm personally not going to support the Councillor Stamoulos' amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. Do I have any other speakers to this amendment? Okay, in which case I'll put this amendment to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hands, please. I've got Councillor De Cruz, Councillor Passis, Councillor Stamos, Councillor Kiat, Councillor Macri. Are you in support? Yep. Councillor Drury, Councillor Steer, Councillor Byrne. I assume you're in support. Councillor Rossetti, and myself. Is that unanimous? Councillor Scander, Councillor York, are you in favour? Sorry. Yep, that's unanimous, I believe. Catherine, is that what you've got there too?
It's not. No, Councillor McKenna and I are against.
Okay, sorry. Councillor McKenna and Councillor Hesse against. Apologies. So that amendment now becomes part of the primary motion. Do we have any other speakers to the primary motion? Councillor Drury, if you've got your hand up there, is this or have you just not taken it down? Okay. Any other speakers to the primary motion? In which case I'll put that. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
I'm in support.
And thank you, Councillor Byrne. And I believe that is unanimous. Yes. Anyone against? No. Excellent. So that is carried. Councillor, can somebody call, Catherine, can you call the Mayor back into the meeting, please?
Oh.
Assume she's coming back. If not, I will go to item 5 while we wait for her.
I'm happy to move that, Councillor Lockie.
Gosh, I didn't even get to say what the item name was. Excitement.
I wish to move it with the first meeting of the new council to be on Thursday, the 30th of December 2021.
Excellent. And I will just clarify.
May I second that?
Excellent. I will just clarify for all of those watching at home that we are talking about the change to the December 2021 council meeting date and 2022 ordinary council meeting schedule. And I can see the Mayor is back in the meeting now, so I will hand the chair to her.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lockie. Much
Well done,
appreciated.
Councillor Lockie.
And just to keep you, Councillor Porteous, myself, I moved item 5 with December 30th being the first meeting, and Councillor Drury seconded it. I don't think I need to speak to it, so I'll just leave it there.
Okay, so you're waiving your speaking rights at this stage.
Yep.
I've got Councillor Drury. Did you want Councillor Drury is seconding it? Yeah. Councillor Drury, did you want to speak to it? I've got Councillor McKenna as well. No.
Chair.
No, Councillor McKenna, and I've got Councillor Macri as well.
Mayor, I just wanted to ask, was the June 2022 meeting dates, are they a mistake? Because every other meeting is the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, and the June ones are the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. So I wondered whether that was intended or...
I'll put that to the General Manager.
Good question. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I might just check with Catherine. So,
Through the chair, that does seem to be an error.
okay, so we'll make that the 14th and the 28th of June.
Okay, thanks for that. I've got Councillor Macri.
Chair, yeah, I just want to clarify. The 30th of December is a Thursday. Why Thursday? Why not the 29th?
Okay, I'll put that to the General Manager.
We were just trying to give as much notice as possible. Thanks, sorry, through the chair, trying to give as much notice as possible, I suppose, and then trying to miss the New Year's Eve. But if councillors have a mind, they wanted to do it on the Wednesday. That's a matter for council, I suppose.
I prefer it on the Wednesday. I'll work on Thursday night, so Christmas, New Year's Eve, it's going to be hectic.
I don't know we don't know what the new councillors might want. I don't even think we should be voting on dates.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Passes. So I'm happy to put you on the speaking list. I've got Councillor Stamoulis next.
Just a question through to the General Manager, Madam Mayor. What is the latest date in January that we could have it? I'm concerned here about, we do have brand new councillors on board, and to get themselves together in that Christmas New Year week, some may be taking leave. We know that there's going to be at least 7 new councillors from what we understand. Could we even have it slightly later, or is that the latest possible date, the 4th of January? That would allow staff will no doubt be taking leave as well, and it could get quite complex. So I'm trying to get the best result here for both the staff and the councillors. So what's the latest date in January we could have it?
Okay, so I'll put that to the General Manager. It's probably good to clarify this is only for the mayoral election. Is that correct as well?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is only for the election of mayor. There's some procedurally some other things we need to vote on, but it's largely the mayoral election and the election of deputy mayor. And then there's another procedure thing that we have to resolve, but there's not planning to have any other business on the agenda. It's purely for that. Normally, council doesn't meet during January, so the thought process was it'd be easier for staff, and we thought the new councillors to do the meeting early. You'll have a mayor in place, and it's up to the mayor if they want to work throughout January, they can, and then we'd come back and induct and start in earnest after Australia Day. And do that. The latest we could have it is 3 weeks after they declare the poll. We don't know what day the poll is, so based on their estimate of the range, I'd be conservative and say the date would need to be the 11th of January would be the latest. But I then have staff that will be away during that period.
Well, then I'll propose the Tuesday, the 4th of January. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is my amendment? Thank you.
So you're moving an amendment that it be Tuesday the 4th of January. Is that correct, Councillor Stamoulis? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
I'll second it.
Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Passes. So we
Can
need
I,
to
can I
deal with
indicate that we will accept Macri's motion to move it the Wednesday 29?
Yep, Councillor Drury and I've discussed it offline, the mover and the seconder agreement to Wednesday the 29th.
Okay, I'm afraid I have to deal with the stimulus amendment first, which is, what day of the week is that?
Just
For-
mucking with you.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. So Councillor Stamoulis has moved the 4th of Tuesday, the 4th of January, and that's been seconded by Councillor Passes. Is there any discussion on this, or we'll put that amendment? No discussion on that. Did you want a right of reply on that, Councillor Stamoulis?
No, I just think it's the most convenient day. It allows people to have their 10-day Christmas break, and then we're back to work on the 4th of January. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So I'll put that amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Okay, so that's lost to 13. Is that, what do you have as a
sorry, I voted for that.
Mayor, I did not
okay,
get
so
that
that's
voting.
3, sorry, that's 3-12 then. So,
Mayor, I didn't get the record of that voting.
okay, so 4 was De Cruz, Stamoulis and Passes, and all the other councillors were against. So Councillor Macri, you want to move another amendment?
No, I voted with that for the 4th, but I'm happy to go with.
Okay, so it's 4.
With the old date of the Wednesday.
So it's 4, 4 and 11 again. Macri as well 4. Okay, so that's a councillor wants to move. Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Passes.
The 29th?
29th. So you want to move that meeting beyond
The
the 29th?
29th has been accepted, Mayor.
We've already accepted
Okay,
it,
so that's-
Councillor Porteous.
Okay, it's been accepted into your primary motion. Okay,
That's
all right,
correct.
fine. Great. Okay, so Councillor Passes, did you want to speak at this stage?
No, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other councillor that wants to speak to this item? Otherwise, I'll go to the mover for a right of reply.
I'll waive.
Thanks, Councillor Hesse. Okay, councillors, I'll put this then. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And is there anybody against?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Councillor
so
Passes.
1 against, that's Councillor Passes, and 14 for. Thanks,
No, I
councillors.
was against, Madam Mayor. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. So that's 2 against, that's Passes and Stamoulis against, and 13 for. So, councillors, we're now going to move to item 10, which is the item that we put forward. We might deal with this item and then have a short break. It's 9 o'clock, but we'll deal with this item first of all. So this is the Inner West Economic Recovery Taskforce update. I brought this forward because the 10 and 11 are basically related, so you can't really do one without doing the other. So I'm happy to move the recommendation. Is there a seconder for it?
Second it. I'll second
Sorry.
it, Mayor. Councillor Steer.
Councillor Steer. Councillor
Yep.
Steer is seconding it. I will waive my right to speak to it. Are there any councillors that want to speak to this?
Chair.
Please go ahead, Councillor Macri.
Chair, just noting, we want to stimulate and assist the businesses, and on Mayoral Road we have a number of outdoor platforms, dining platforms, but they're not roofed. A number of businesses have actually expressed an interest in actually roofing those platforms and maintaining them. And I think we should take an in principle position to actually say we support that sort of process, provided they go through the DA process. But if we want to get people back in the shopping strips when it's raining or when it's too hot on those outdoor platforms, it's not very pleasant. So allowing them to roof them, and that's the desire of a lot of those businesses, will make them more used and make the businesses more vibrant and lift the look of the street.
Okay, so did you want to move that way as an amendment, Councillor Macri?
Yes.
Okay. I'll wait to see that, and I'll go to Councillor Steer as I didn't offer the opportunity. Councillor Steer, did you want to speak as a seconder?
Yes. Yes, it's good to see that there is some progress being made on the task force, and because it is an important issue for our community. I think Councillor Macri's idea of roofing outdoor dining areas in Marrickville is a good one. Marrickville has been determined by the third coolest place in Sydney, so that will make it cooler. In the unseasonable weather of Sydney, it's also a good idea. We can't rely on outdoor dining. The other recommendations, I look forward to seeing them implemented in the future. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Steer. So we're just waiting for the wording for Councillor Macri's amendment. Are there any other councillors that want to speak to the item at this stage?
Yes, I'll say a few words.
Okay, please go ahead, Councillor Passos.
As a person who ran small business, I'm afraid to say what's in this report is not going to help small businesses. What we do is stimulate, look after our core responsibilities. Business owners know what to do to help their business. If we can waive fees like the health inspection fees, try to generate more parking for them, look for extra parking for them, that's all businesses want. They want their garbage bins picked up. They want the street cleaned. They know what their businesses want. All this here about using car parks for outdoor dining is an absolute joke. By the time the food left the restaurant and got to the car park, it'd be cold. You can't cook out in open. The facilities are not there. Water's not on for hygienic purposes. You must have all these things that we demand that businesses have. I'm afraid I can't support this. This does not explain anything concrete. Not one thing. All I know from the businesses is I have businesses begging for an extra garbage bin. In many instances, council saying they have to get private people to pick up their recycling and their garbage. Council doesn't supply bins. These are the things that businesses need. They don't need tables and chairs in car parks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Passos. Councillor Macri, do we have your amendments?
Just send it through to Catherine.
Okay. Are there any other councillors that want to speak on this item?
Yes, Chair. Look,
okay, so I've got Councillor Cruz, then Councillor Byrne. Go ahead, Councillor Cruz.
That's okay. Peter again, so could you put yourself on mute? Sorry, thanks. Look, I think I wanted to respond or pick up on what Councillor Passos was saying. I support council expanding our business services, but I do recognise that businesses are expanding waste services to our businesses, especially if we can help them move to more sustainable practices and improve resource recovery, like food waste and those kind of things. So I actually support what Councillor Passos was saying, and I don't know whether we need to put it in here, but that's certainly the council should be moving towards expanding waste services to businesses. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Cruz. So I'll go to Councillor Byrne and then we'll go to the amendments, which I probably am going to incorporate. Councillor Byrne?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So just to clarify, we're dealing with both the Economic Recovery Task Force and the outdoor dining policy as part of the same motion. Is that correct?
No, it's not. We're dealing with them separately. We will deal with that one afterwards.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. In regards to the economic, so which one are we dealing with?
We're dealing with item 10, which is the Economic Recovery Taskforce update, and has the funding allocated to the Dining and Live Performance Project.
Okay, thanks very much. I want to thank the members of the task force for the advice and expertise that they provided pro bono to the council and to the local community in throughout the deliberations of the task force. And I have to be honest in saying that I share the view that a number of them have expressed to me, that it's a bit discouraging to see that the recommendations of the task force have not been taken up with any great impetus in the report that we have received. The most common description of the status of the implementation of the recommendations, as far as I could tell, was quote unquote business as usual, and I think that's indicative of the problem and the challenge. I don't wish to speak to it in any greater length than that, but I don't think it's. I don't support the. I don't support the approach that the council is taking in regards to the recommendations. And I'll give one example: the public space activation strategy, which was one of the 5 recommendations that were adopted by council in May, has yet to be tabled. Notwithstanding the outdoor dining measures that are being considered tonight. I think these are all issues that should be considered with more seriousness in the future. And I think we should accept as an organisation that we have a lot to learn, all of us, from the private sector and from people who love and care about and live in the Inner West and conduct their business in the Inner West, but are not part of the council as an organisation. If we're not going to seek to learn more from people who have expertise and knowledge outside of the organisation, then it's really going to limit how effective we can be as servants of the community.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. Well said, yeah. I just want to get some advice, Councillor Macri, on the wording of your amendment. If I could ask that the relevant council officer just address the wording there, and as it's worded, is it clear to council officers how they would implement that amendment from Councillor Macri?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I might go to Graham Palmer.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could you clarify the question, please?
So Councillor Macri has put forward an amendment that council give in principle support for businesses to be applying for to roofing the outdoor dining platforms when they apply. I mean, when they apply for
when they put in a DA, when they put a DA in for shelter.
For a DA, yeah, is that right?
So basically you need owner's consent. The owner of the platforms are the council. So without the owner's consent, they can't lodge a DA.
Right.
They'll have to take that on notice, unfortunately.
Madam Mayor, look, I see that there's, the motion, it gives guidance enough for staff with the motion. At the end of the day, it's a council would appear that over time we haven't really supported having fully enclosed awnings in there. What this is saying, if someone applies, they'll have to go through a process, and whatever the approval process, whether it be a DA to covering, they'll have to go through that. There'll still be other things that need to be ticked off in that space. So I sort of have enough clarity for what that is personally.
Can I have a bit more information? Is this private or public land?
So just okay, this is owned by council, Councillor Pessis. So I'll incorporate that as point 3, Councillor Macri. That becomes point 3 of the primary motion. Are there any other councillors that want to speak on this item? No? Okay. and I have waived my rights. I waive my right of reply. So I'll now put this motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And against? Councillor Drew, I didn't see you put up your hand. Were you for? Councillor Drew? Were you for? No?
Sorry, yes.
You're for, okay. So I believe that's unanimous. Okay, thanks, councillors. So we're now going to move to item 11, which is the outdoor dining. Is it any councillor want to move this item? Councillors?
I'll move it.
Would any councillor like to move this item, item 11?
Yes, I'll move it.
Okay, that's, sorry, who said that?
Councillor De Cruz.
Councillor De Cruz. So Councillor De Cruz moving it. Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Steer will second it.
Councillor Steer will second it. Thank you. That's moved by Councillor De Cruz, seconded by Councillor Steer. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor De Cruz?
Yes, I'm very pleased to speak to anything using the outdoors and minimising the risk of the spread of COVID, and thank the officers for their report, and had a few conversations about it, and I'm confident that we can implement it. I would really dearly love to see streets enlivened and people sitting, having meals instead of in takeaway containers, ending up in our rubbish bins and litter. So I think this is a good move. It's been done in cities around the world. It's been done in Melbourne, and I hope we can see it done in Sydney, with perhaps even some of that on-street parking turned into seating and wider footpaths, because that's what we need. And having people meet in the street is going to be better for business than a whole lot of cars just driving through. So thank you for the report, and I support it.
Thank you, Councillor De Cruz. Councillor Steer, would you like to speak to it as a seconder?
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, I thank Councillor De Cruz for her comments, which I endorse. I think with the pandemic, people have rediscovered the love of outdoor dining and performance. Well, we haven't had much performance, but outdoor dining, because everybody is out in the parks having picnics and spending their time having more activities. So, encouraging this sort of activity is very timely. We don't have to make people do it. They want to do it. They're already doing it. And we've had, in a number of precincts, we've had outdoor dining for a while, and it's very successful, particularly during the daylight saving months, which we now have. And with the allocation of funding of $138,000 from the Inner West Economic Recovery Taskforce to partially fund this project, this will actually stimulate our local economy, in fact, very much the hospitality economy. I was visiting Camperdown Commons today, and we were told that they were searching for staff, and that is a situation around the Inner West at the moment, that people are really starting to rev up and get their venues going. And I think this is a fantastic way to give our hospitality and entertainment industries in the Inner West a fantastic boost, so that we can all have a wonderful summer of entertainment and good food and enjoy the beautiful outdoors. Thank you.
May I speak?
Please go ahead, Councillor Passos.
Well, I don't know where this 138,000 is going. I don't know what this 138,000 is going to do to stimulate business. As I spoke previously, we need to go back. This all sounds good. It's nice for a headline, and we're going to have music in the streets. In Asheville area, we don't have business permits. I have a small business that is forever paying parking fines. He delivers, he sells halal meat. He can't afford to attract any more infringement notices. And I tried for months to get him a business parking permit, and I'm told we don't have them in Ashfield. This is Ashfield. This is what I'm talking about. This is the support the businesses need. They don't need an electricity socket to plug in an electric guitar in a car park or in the street. They need the basics. I spoke previously, they need bins. They need to have their rubbish removed. This 138,000, tell me how is the first dollar going to be spent to stimulate outdoor dining and small business? I cannot understand.
No, it's not finishing yet.
I cannot understand how
No, they won't. We're on the break now.
Councillor Rossetti. Okay.
I want to know how you can help small business substantially in the proper manner. Go door to door, go to the businesses. Come back, don't just say 138,000 and we're going to have dancing in the street. It doesn't work like that. I cannot support this because I would like to know how this 138,000 is going to be spent in this large LGA with all the businesses we have. What is it going to achieve or produce?
Thanks, Councillor Passes. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Please go ahead, Councillor Byrne.
Thanks very much. I have some amendments to move. I am concerned that what is proposed will be difficult for businesses to operate and make work. The businesses that I've spoken to over recent days and weeks are really stretched. As has been referenced, many of them are down on staff. They have a lot of bills to pay and are having to navigate the whole system of restrictions and requirements in order to open in a COVID-safe way. So their capacity to take on a new application process that could be complicated or convoluted, I think, is very limited. As far as I can tell from the policy, what's being made available here is parking spaces in front of businesses. And there's a traffic committee application process, as well as an approval process through the police and through liquor and gaming, and a requirement for a social impact assessment to be submitted by businesses in order to access, I think in most instances, an individual parking space. I'm concerned that's not very workable. I don't know what the average, Councillor Macri would be better placed than me to say what the average processing time is for a traffic committee application, but I dare say it's well over a month. The lockdown restrictions have lifted yesterday, and I think this will be pretty challenging for businesses to be able to take up the estimate of 50 businesses that would want to access a parking space. May be right. There's a lot more than 50 businesses who need additional space, but there may not be more than 50 businesses who have the wherewithal and the resources to go through such a complicated application process. I am a little discouraged that the resolution in May to develop a public space activation strategy coming out of lockdown restrictions has not been taken up. That was an important recommendation that came from the Economic Recovery Taskforce and should have been a higher priority than it has been, and should have been tabled, I think, with detail before now. Given the complications that I've outlined that I think businesses will encounter in being able to access the program as it's described, I think it would be wise to open up the grants process to not just businesses, but to local residents facilitating street parties.
Councillor Byrne, your time has expired. Do you want an extension of time?
Yes, if I could, that would be great.
1 minute, 2 minutes?
1 minute's fine.
1 minute. I'll move an extension time 1 minute, seconded by Councillor Stamoulis. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, please go ahead, Councillor Byrne.
Thanks very much. It's proposed that $80,000 would be expended on grants for live performance. There's an EOI referenced in the report. I'm not sure exactly how that would work. It sounds like wouldn't be an immediate process, and this does need to be an immediate program. I think it would be a good idea, given the limitations on businesses in the proposed outdoor dining policy, that we open up the grants process to local residents who are facilitating street parties across the next few months, as well as local community organisations who are arranging reunion events. There'll be a heap of NGOs and community organisations in the inner west that haven't had a meeting in the past 18 months, and being able to hire a local performer to come down and entertain everybody would be a great way to reconnect the community. So I'm proposing 2 amendments. I've provided 3 amendments to the minute taker. One is redundant, I think. I'll ask them to display that on the screen. The first one is just that we note that the resolution of May resolving to develop a public activation strategy has not been implemented, and that we urgently create a live music and performance small grants scheme with funding of $80,000 as indicated in the report, and the grants of up to $300 are made available to hire live performers who are residents of the Inner West LGA to perform, with eligible applicants to include those that I've listed: hospitality businesses, residents facilitating street parties, and local community organisations arranging community events. I'll move those amendments.
Seconded.
Okay, so Councillor Byrne, there's essentially 2 amendments there, yeah?
Amendment 2 is already represented in the resolution.
Yeah. So Councillor De Cruz, are you, so that's been seconded by Councillor Drury. Are you happy to incorporate either of those or none of those?
I'm not, actually, I'm not, because I'm a bit concerned. The street parties, we have that already.
Point of order, Mayor. This is out of order. You were asked whether she accepts or not another speech.
Thanks for that, Councillor Drury. Councillor De Cruz, if you could indicate whether or not you are accepting them.
I indicated I wasn't accepting it. I was just explaining why.
So not 1 and not 2. 1 is just
I don't think we even need to accept point 1.
You don't want to accept point 1. Okay. All right, so councillors will need to deal with the 2 amendments. I suggest that we deal with it as one item. Are you happy for it to be dealt with as one item, Councillor Byrne? Or do you want them dealt with separately?
Happy to deal with them as one item.
Yeah,
I'm at your discretion, Chair.
Yep. Okay. So, Councillor Byrne, you've already spoken to the amendment. Councillor Drury, did you want to speak to the amendment? And then I've got Councillor Lockie.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Lockie?
I'd like to speak to the amendment.
Okay, I'll put you on the list, Councillor Passes.
Probably more a question to Councillor Byrne, if I may. Just in relation to point 2B of the amendment, because I understand the funding that we're drawing from, and perhaps it's a misunderstanding of mine of the original intent of the idea, but it was to try and stimulate the local economy and help the local economy come out of, stimulate the COVID recovery for our local businesses and organisations and high streets and so forth. I can definitely see where the rest of the amendment does that. With 2B, because it's about local residents facilitating street parties, I appreciate, yes, that does offer some employment to local performers who are at those street parties, but I don't know if it offers as much of the wider economic stimulus as, say, having those performers at local hospitality businesses or organisations doing events and so forth might do. So I wonder if Councillor Byrne could clarify his intent with 2B, why that's being included as part of this.
Councillor Byrne.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Lockie, for the question. The $138,000, which I was responsible for passing a resolution that we allocate that to the implementation of the Economic Recovery Taskforce. The officers have identified no additional expenditure and have proposed instead that it be redistributed to this outdoor dining policy's implementation. And the officers have also suggested that approximately 50 businesses might take up an additional parking space. It's not going to be possible to implement the approximately 250 gigs that might take place with $80,000 of expenditure. If you do the sums quickly, say it was $300 a pop, that would be about 250 gigs. With only 50 parking spaces made available at hospitality businesses, there's not going to be the capacity. I suspect there'll be less take up than that, given the complications of the application process. There are many local contractors, businesses, whatever you want to call them, self-employed people working in the music and arts sector who've been left out in the cold during the pandemic. And ensuring that the entire $80,000 is able to stimulate that sector is an important thing to do, and opening it up to local residents who will be holding these sorts of events to be able to hire a local musician will have a really positive economic impact.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. Councillor Passos?
Yes, well, I can't support this. First of all, I don't know what musician will come out all night and play for $300. Secondly, street parties, it's the residents that know how to set that up, and I don't know why they need a grant. I think council supports them with bollards and maybe bins, garbage bins. We've been doing it for years. We do not have the funds to do this. And who picks who gets the money? What happens if 100 streets in every LGA, part of the LGA, wants this? Who sits back and says this street gets the funding? Residents set up their own parties. They know how to do it. And you would probably find, probably there's a musician that lives in one of the streets or most of the streets. They can work this out together. We can't afford to do this. It is absolutely ridiculous. You'd be better off getting the musicians that have gone through such a bad time and just handing them the money. It would probably help them better. But what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get a headline here? Street parties, give the neighbours money so they can hire a musician? I really can't believe what's taking up this council's time and all these things that are coming up.
Thanks,
I would vote against this.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Pastos. Councillor Hesse?
Thanks, Councillor Porteous. I find this really difficult. I think there's a real issue about getting our society rolling again. But our society is not just narrowly jobs or narrowly entertainment or narrowly small business or narrowly big business. It's actually a lot more sophisticated than that. I was down in Mayoral Road yesterday and chatting to Fiona from the Gasoline Pony, and they were, in there cleaning up the venue and making sure it's ready to roll when they reopen tomorrow night. And I have every reason to believe that there's every live music venue in Marrickville doing exactly the same thing. And they'll be getting, hopefully, wanting, in fact, I know, because I've already missed out on several gigs I'm interested in at the Gasoline Pony. They've sold them out already. So these are small businesses and they will be operating within the COVID restrictions. So they've got one person every 4 square metres, whatever it is. And they'll be doing their best to get people in. I'm not sure how this, I'm not knocking it in some respects. $300 is some money, but it's not a lot. I mean, a lot of musicians get pretty crabby when they're offered peanuts. For one person, maybe it's okay. Any more than that doesn't really work. it looks to me, and I know there's an upside to what Councillor Byrne is offering, but the downside is, in my humble opinion, it's the desire for the headliners. And I think we've actually got to get a bit more sophisticated than this. It's a little bit on the run, and it's easy to give away the money for all of us for the headline. We all get to feel good, and people might get to vote for whoever's running for the council election. But is it actually good policy? Does it deliver what it's alleged to deliver? On that, I find it difficult to believe. And following up on the issue that Councillor Lockie questioned Councillor Byrne on, facilitating street parties, yeah, feel good. How do you ensure that you're not getting, people who haven't been vaccinated to those street parties, which we're asked to manage? That's nigh on impossible, I'd imagine, in a street party. All those kinds of things. Look, it all feels lovey-dovey, but I'm not sure if it's actually in line with the health policies the government's actually asking us to adhere to. So, yeah, I don't know, bit all over the shop. I'm conflicted, and I think a bit like the discussion where I think Councillor Byrne, in fairness, made a sensible discussion on the mayor's.
Yeah, Councillor Hessie's time's expired. I don't know if he needs any further time to criticise me personally.
Councillor Byrne, I'm aware of that. Thank you. Councillor Hesse, did you need an extension of time?
You've made enough personal remarks, I think, comrade.
Okay, Councillor Byrne, thank you.
Councillor Byrne, you never do it yourself, of course.
Councillor Hesse, did you need an extension?
No, look, I'll leave it at that.
I'm not the one who always pretends to be.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Thank you, Councillor Hesse.
Seriously.
Councillors, are there any other councillors who want to speak to this item? I'll just speak briefly. Look, I can't support the Byrne amendment. I am the way I'm interpreting it, there'd be nothing in the wording that's currently here to mean that we wouldn't end up funding a clown for a children's party or Santa Claus to come along at a Christmas event. I mean, it's all entertainment, and I don't think that's the intention, but essentially where the grants are up to 300, those are the sort of things that local residents will often be hiring. I mean, I hope that, I'd say beyond that, but the reality is that the whole purpose is to incentivize business, and that's where that funding is intended to go. It's not meant to incentivize people having street parties. It's meant to incentivize us going back and using business and generating income within the businesses and helping the businesses to get back on their feet again. That's what it's about. And I think we need to stand true to what it was that we were initially trying to achieve. And this, to me, is going away from that. I mean, it's a lovely idea, but it just doesn't deliver on what we said we wanted to deliver. So I can't support it for that reason. So I'll go to Councillor Byrne for a right of reply.
Thanks very much, Mayor. So what's occurred here is that there was an economic recovery task force, which I proposed and which we convened. It made recommendations, 38 recommendations, largely which are now not being progressed, one of which was a public activation strategy, which I also proposed as a resolution of the council in May, which was supported unanimously, which has not been implemented. And there's an outdoor dining policy, which I proposed after being removed as mayor, in good faith, which was spoken to positively, which is an infrequent occurrence for anything proposed by myself at council meetings, and was adopted unanimously. I've expressed legitimate reservations about how workable that will be, and again proposed constructive amendments to seek to try to make the policy useful and workable for the community, and in response have been frankly in receipt of the usual criticism from Councillor Hesse, which is coached in a language of respect, but it is generally not respectful. I make no apology for being an activist when it comes to policy at the council. I am a bit sick and tired of the incessant personal criticism anytime I put something forward which other people don't want to support. It's perfectly legitimate to vote against something, but it's always seemingly from some parties tinged with questions about my motives. I invite other councillors who have other ideas about how we can get the community back on its feet and support the arts sector and the local economy to actually put them forward in policies rather than carping.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. So, councillors, I'll now put the Byrne amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Lockie, McKenna, Drury, York, Iskander. Those against? So that's all of the other councillors against without going through the names. Councillor Macri, I didn't see you. Are you there, Councillor Macri? So I think Councillor Macri's absent from the vote. That should be 6 for and 8 against, and one absent. Yep. Okay, so that is lost. We now go back to the primary motion. Are there any other speakers to the primary motion?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Stamos.
Look, I'd just like to say a few things. In terms of the last couple of motions, this one and the last previous motion, we start with some very solid and focused thoughts, and unfortunately we tend to dilute them over time. It's clear there that the Economic Recovery Taskforce is asking council to commit to some of our own basic services in the area. That is to make sure the presentation of the area that council has responsibility for, in terms of the footpaths, the gutters, and many other things. You know, I could talk about litter, the cleanliness. I could talk about lighting, whether we have enough seats in our various shopping villages all over the municipality. And I think this is where artworks, decorations, those sorts of things that can add from a council perspective to the performance of our shopping villages. Additionally, council having its staff located throughout the municipality at our libraries and other venues also assist, because those staff go out and use the local areas. And I think that's a key role that we play. But this is very much this is directed at our outdoor dining, and I'm just feeling as though we're sort of diluting it. We should really concentrate our efforts back to getting one key sector moving along very well, and I think we seem to be losing a little bit of focus down the track. I'm hoping that we can get back to investing this money very wisely into getting people into those dining facilities, having their coffees, having their meals, going to the pubs, and injecting live performance into that, and working very strongly with all of our business areas to fulfil those objectives. I just hope we can stay focused on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stanlis. There's no other councillors that would like to address this item. I'm going to go to Councillor De Cruz for a right of reply.
Yes, just briefly. I think businesses have been incredible through these lockdowns. When you go into these stores, you get customers who behave a range of ways. I just heard that a local business actually organised COVID-safe cards for some people who are sitting outside of the shops and were not able to organise themselves. There's a lot of things that our libraries have been doing, and they haven't been open, so small businesses have stepped up to assist our community. I think our small businesses will assist our community to reconnect, to get out on the street, because I think this has been concerned as a big issue that people will face after being in lockdown, how they re-emerge. So I think that we need to focus on our main streets. I noticed that in the report, there's a mention of loss of revenue from parking. I think that won't be so much a negative here. It'd be wonderful if all the parking spots were actually taken up and there were people sitting there and people moving around. It would demonstrate how vibrant our local economy is. And at the end of the day, these are ratepayers, and the rates will come into council, and it'll be a much better economic result for us. So I hope that councillors will all support this, and I thank the officers again for preparing this work.
Thanks for that, Councillor Cruz. I'll now put this motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I believe that's unanimous.
It's not. I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Okay, all those against? Councillor Passes is against. So that's 14-1.
Mayor, Councillor Macri is still absent.
Absent, yeah. Okay, councillors, two items. First, the General Manager's communicated to me that we also need to deal with item 12 tonight, which is the pecuniary interest. So I'm going to move that we suspend standing orders and also bring forward item 12 to be dealt with. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move. Item 12 next, Mayor.
Seconded by Dear. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Yeah, look, if before we go to a break, I'll just I think we can probably deal with
Mayor,
item 12.
may I move item 12?
That's moved by Councillor Drury, that's seconded by Councillor Lockie. Is there any discussion?
No.
Aye.
Are you okay? Right, you'd like to reply. So I'll put that. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, I'm going to suggest that we have a quick recess. It's 9:42, so we come back at 9:47. That's right, isn't it? It's 5 minutes. 9:47. So we'll have a quick recess for 5 minutes. Move that we have a recess of 5 minutes. Thanks. Councillors, are we back?
Well, I am.
Good. Councillor Macquarie's back.
Yep.
Councillor Cruz is back. Councillor Passis is back. Councillor McKenna's back. Councillor Steers back.
I'm here, Mayor.
Great. I think we have a quorum. Councillor Scander's back. Yeah. So councillors, we'll reconvene the meeting. It's now 9:48. And the other item which we brought forward is item 24, which is the notice of motion, Bunnings traffic. Councillor Macquarie, that's your motion if you'd like to speak to it. And we need a seconder for the motion as well.
I'll second it.
It's seconded by Councillor Passis. Councillor Macquarie.
Thanks, Chair. The background's fairly self-explanatory. I'll note we've had some further information which we won't discuss from the staff. I don't think that makes any difference to what we need to move ahead with. And realistically, tonight, one of the champions of Tempe, Ron Honing, actually raised this very issue in Parliament tonight. And Ron is a strong advocate for the people of Tempe, and I support him all the way in actually trying to get the right outcome for the people of Tempe here. We need to get traction. The residents are actually not just expecting us to do everything for them. They've put their hand in their pockets and they're actually taking action themselves, but they need to be backed by council. We need to actually stand behind our residents. And I've added a couple of extra points because of my concern with the caretaker period of council. And it's asking that staff do not exercise their delegations to approve the LATM during the caretaker period until the new council has been consulted. And Bunnings has also put in a submission. Well, Bunnings has put in a 455 to actually increase the intensity of their actual operation, which will also increase traffic and many other impacts associated with the development. And I believe council, as the councillors, should put in a submission which actually asks them to actually do something about the traffic signalling that we've asked for and oppose the submission until the traffic situation has been resolved. It's a very important part of the process, and I will be asking councillors that we approve the full budget of the 25,000 as the residents have asked for, so we can partner them and give them their best opportunity and we leave no stone unturned. As I said previously, and I don't want to go over the same issues, safety, children's safety, impact to local residents, local businesses. I think it really speaks for itself. And our residents are standing like David in front of not one Goliath, but two Goliaths. Transport for New South Wales and Bunnings. And I think they need to know that their council are supporting them and we need to back them all the way. So I'll be asking for the full budget of 25,000 if it needs to be amended in there. And councillors, I'll put it to you for your support.
Thanks, Councillor Macquarie. Councillor Passis, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, quickly. We can do nothing else but support these people. These people, what they're asking for is not unreasonable. They're not opposing Bunnings. They're not against Bunnings operating there. But Bunnings, I cannot for the life of me understand that type of business digging their heels in and what they're doing. It's something I cannot fathom. We were just ready to spend, we have put to us to spend $80,000 for a couple of songs and a street party. There can be no question about this. We have to be careful with our funds, but this money will be put to use, good use, if we can let them know that we're not going to let them treat our residents like this, our reasonable residents. And even more that I support the residents wholeheartedly, 100%. They have made signs, they are proactive, they put their hands in their own pockets. Not like other groups that come to this council and wanted council to do everything and pay everything. These people are people to be supported wholeheartedly. They helped themselves. They worked, they were organised and have spent their own funds. There is no way we cannot support this. And may I say, they've had a very good advert in Councillor Macri, and I'm not giving accolades to a fellow councillor lightly, because he's been onto this. He's tried to convince people, he's tried to get to ministers, he's worked so hard on this, and with that commitment, and as I said, I wasn't that supportive of the West Connex people because they expected council to do everything. These poor people have not asked for a thing except our support. Well, tonight, we must give it all we can. And this 25,000 should be voted on, and the newspaper ads and anything else we can do should be commenced immediately.
Thanks, Councillor Passes. Councillor Hesse.
Thanks, Councillor Porteous. Look, I'd like to thank Councillor Macri for bringing the matter to council, and I'd like to commend the residents for their opposition to this as well. I won't repeat what's been said, but what I might reflect on is this, I think, represents a fundamental failing in our planning system, that the traffic implications of this development were not resolved before the development was approved, I think is actually deeply shocking. And that is frankly down to the New South Wales government and their planning system. But it is their planning system that has led us to this place. In some respects, and I'm not flying a flag for Bunnings here, but in some respects they too are victims, because as I understand it, possibly imperfectly, they had a plan which would have initially not led us down this path. The idea that we can have the traffic that could go down Union Street, which even for denizens of places like Balmain or the back streets of Newtown, is a narrow street which goes past a primary school. The idea that we could increase traffic down Union Street and the streets that run off that is frankly bonkers. And I'll make this commitment whether I'm on council or not, and I'm not seeking to be on council after December, but I'd be pleased to join as many residents as possible sitting across Union Street to block the traffic permanently. I'll be down there every day because this is simply not acceptable. Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales government have to make sure that Union Street does not become a thoroughfare and the streets around it for the traffic generated by this development. And therefore I support this. I would ask through this, and I'm sure Bunnings are listening, to apply the pressure they have on the state government to do the right thing. And I'm sure the state government in their own ways are listening as well. And I would ask them to listen to the community too, and the council of Inner West Council. And I would encourage all councillors to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hesse. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to this motion? Is that Councillor Stamos? Did you want to speak to it?
Madam Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank Councillor Macri for being very, very active on this issue. As a Balmain ward councillor, It's sometimes hard to get the grasp of certain traffic issues in other parts of our large municipality, but Councillor Macri has certainly taken me through the detail of it. And may I say, added to that, have been some fantastic emails coming through with very, very solid information that all councillors have received about this proposal and the action that our residents would like to take. I've looked closely at it, and I see a very, very complex arrangement of streets, difficulties with parking, difficulties with safety, primary school children, general access, a cycleway. It's very, very complex, and I think we do need to respond to the concerns of our community. I'll certainly be supporting this motion, and may I thank the community for a very well organised campaign, and certainly will get my support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stamalos. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to this item?
Can I just seek clarity, Mayor?
So I've got Councillor Steer and Councillor Byrne. Councillor Steer?
Yes. Councillors have consistently opposed the proposed traffic arrangements at Tempe for Bunnings, and this is not an attack on Bunnings itself. It is an attack. It is simply pointing out that this is the people will be affected, that residents will be affected in our LGA, and they will be very heavily affected. This isn't just a slight increase in traffic, it will be a massive increase in traffic. And we heard tonight how dangerous it will be, particularly for children going to school, and how it will destroy the amenity of the residents in their local streets. They won't be able to enjoy their street. They will be constantly confronted with traffic, and they will constantly have the fear that perhaps something might happen to one of their houses or their children as a result of all that traffic. We have already seen that there are better ways to organise this traffic to so that it can flow through to Bunnings, and this is a matter for Transport for New South Wales, which has done such a lot for the Inner West Council, and I'm being sarcastic, of course, when I say that. As we know, we're still living with the effects of WestConnex, particularly at Rozelle, which is now a nightmare to traverse as a result of the works there. The WestConnex itself has only given us an extra 5 or 10 minutes on our trips, so it hardly seems worth the trouble. This is, however, preventable. This is the very work that Transport for New South Wales should be doing, and it is simply rearranging local traffic in a way that will protect the residents, protect the children, protect their properties, and allow people to visit Bunnings without going through a suburban street, and to actually have probably better access to Bunnings as a result. The solution lies with Transport for New South Wales, and I don't think we should give up, and we won't give up until we are able to get the result that we want from Transport for New South Wales, and that is security of amenity and peace and quiet for the people of Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Steer. Councillor Byrne?
Thanks very much, Mayor. I concur with the comments that have been made about Councillor Macri's effective advocacy and diligence on this matter and others. I'm just seeking, and I'm in support of the proposal, just seeking clarity about what we are voting on. Is it an allocation of $20,000, or is it $25,000, or is it $5,000, or is it that options on those would come back to council, just for the purpose of clarity?
25,000 asking for, Chair.
So I think that's captured in the background elements of the motion.
Can I seek some clarification about that then?
So I'll go to the General Manager for clarification about that.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was just trying to get my camera to work. So, sorry, I need to get the question again, the clarification on, is it the funding or the?
What are we voting on in terms of the funding allocation?
Yeah,
no, I think that's been clarified by the mover of the motion that he's proposing at $25,000. I'm just seeking clarification about how that figure's derived. It costs $20,000 for a single ad in the Herald.
Yeah, no, it's a combination of the newspaper ads. Yep, and that was advice from our comms team.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne.
And sorry, and the Madam Mayor, and obviously it's the ads in the paper. It includes all of that, the installation of the banners and the ads in the newspaper.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor, is there any other councillor want to speak on this? Councillor De Cruz, then I'll speak briefly. Please go ahead.
Yeah, look, I'd like to speak briefly. I attended a meeting, I don't know how long ago now, at Tempe, and it's been a long issue between Bunnings and IKEA next door. I mean, frankly, I think that they could share a driveway, but for whatever reasons, that's not allowed. But yes, look, I think we should support this community because this is a major impact. We've got a similar impact from Bunnings on Frederick Street in Ashfield, and even Woolies in Ashfield as well. And I think it's really, really difficult for the community to have to cope with these major stores and the traffic they generate, and particularly the Bunnings car park would generate huge amounts of traffic. So I wholeheartedly support us supporting our community. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor De Cruz. Look, I'll just speak briefly. Obviously, I've been working with Councillor Macri on this for a while, and it's very impressive, the advocacy that Councillor Macri has shown, and the detailed knowledge that he has of this particular traffic issue. It obviously has had quite a long history, and I'd say a very frustrating history as well. And certainly we need to be targeting not just Bunnings, but also Transport for New South Wales, neither of which are delivering as they should be for the local community. It's also really impressive, as some of the other speakers have said as well, the local community itself and our local activists. I always say that, you know, in the Inner West, you get the best community activists. We get a small group of community activists in the Inner West and they can achieve pretty much anything. So I reckon that we're on a winner here, that will, with the help of and the support of council, I'm confident that we'll get the outcome that we want. I have to say it's also really pleasing to see councillors such as Councillor Passis supporting funding going to activism, because I think that's
the point of order, Mayor.
Yes, point of order, Councillor Passis.
That was totally unnecessary.
It was a compliment, Councillor.
It was funny.
No,
I was meant as a compliment. If you didn't feel it was a
thank you, Mayor.
fine.
Excuse me, Mayor. I don't think
that's not actually a point of order.
No, it is a point of order.
Okay.
Be careful, Mayor. You do not sit there and try to make fun of councillors.
Councillor Passis, thank you, Councillor Passis. It's not a point of order.
No, thank you. You had no right.
Thank you, Councillor Passis.
Tell us more about the private conversations.
Councillor Passis, is not a point of order.
I think you should withdraw
as I said,
what you said.
It's very pleasing to see councillors.
No, you should withdraw what you said.
Councillor
I'm
Passis,
more of an activist than you'll ever be.
I'll have to give you a warning if you persist.
You can give me all the warnings in the world.
Councillor Passis. As I said, it's very pleasing to see councillors supporting this proposal from Councillor Macri. It is important that we stand up for our local residents. It is important that we make it very clear that this is unacceptable. This is a safety issue. This is a well-being issue, and the resident needs our help. And I'm really pleased that we're stepping up to give the residents the help that they need. So I hope that we'll see this supported unanimously by councillors this evening. Councillor Macri, I'll go to you for a right of reply.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly, Bunnings is not the enemy for the community. Bunnings, we want to work with you. We want you to deliver your store. We want you to have a great store in Tempe. We just need you to make sure you don't impact unnecessarily. If it was necessary, we'd have a problem, but it's unnecessary. I mean, just in mitigation works to all the streets they're going to affect, there's over $1.3 million in works that have to be done. I mean, and people talk about IKEA. IKEA actually did all the work to actually traffic proof those streets all the way. They spent millions of dollars in doing that. Bunnings only has to deliver us one set of traffic lights. That's all they have to do. And, you know, all the way down the Princess Highway, it's consistent. Every large operation has its own traffic lights. Every little group of, there's a lot of large format retail down the Princess Highway. They have their own sets of lights. Even Hungry Jack's has their own set of lights, for crying out loud. If Hungry Jack's can afford a set of lights, I'm sure that Bunnings can. We're just asking them to do the right thing here. And really, the villains here are really New South Wales Transport. They're the villains. They're the ones that are actually blocking this because, as was said, in the original proposal, Bunnings had a set of lights there. They weren't working the way we've worked them to work to expel the traffic from the site, but they had a set of lights there. So they know it. They know they need them. We know they need them. The whole community knows they need them. We just need to get them to understand that. And I'd almost want them to actually come down, have a meeting with us, and actually take an hour to walk down those streets. It'll only take you 5 minutes to realise what we all know and what we're talking about. That's what we need. Come down and talk to us, Bunnings. Transport New South Wales, come and meet us on site and walk through it and see what it is. Because I don't want to take a situation where Alexandria, they opened up Alexandria and then they had to put the traffic lights in anyway because it didn't work. This will be the same situation here. The only problem is with these sets of lights that they don't put in, someone will probably be killed, whether it's a motorist driving down the Princess Highway, going head on with someone trying to turn into the Bunnings driveway, whether it's a cyclist riding down the cycleway, or whether it's a group of children walking down the footpath. I don't need a fatality to say we need the lights. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Macri. I'm now going to put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And I believe that's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Councillors, we're now going to return to standing orders and deal with the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, because we've deferred item 6. I'll just flag as well that I'm intending to go into confidential session at 10:30 because there are at least a couple of items there that we do need to deal with tonight. So we'll now deal with item 7, which is the Council and Community COVID Crisis Intervention Task Force. It's basically reporting the terms of reference. I'll move that the Council adopt the terms of reference for the Council and Community COVID Crisis Intervention Task Force. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Lockie. I'll speak to it briefly and then I can see Councillor Drew's hands up and Councillor Kiat's and Councillor Lockie is seconding. Thanks. Look, I'm really pleased with the task force. We actually got some communication today from, we've obviously circulated the terms of reference to the members of the task force, and we've had some really positive responses back from members of the task force saying that they find this a very useful forum and believe that it's enabling them to work together more collaboratively and to understand the work of each other, which should lead to better outcomes in terms of us all being able to work very productively and very collaboratively to achieve what we want to achieve, which is, of course, assisting the most vulnerable people in our community, and particularly when there are crises, but also for many people, the crisis is every day. It never goes away. And all of these organisations that we're working with are always working to enable those that are most vulnerable to take another step ahead when life is very difficult. I think we should be really proud of these organisations that we have, so many of them located within our local government area and doing such great work as well. So this is the start, I hope, of some really good initiatives moving forward. This was seconded by Councillor Lockie. Councillor Lockie.
Only just to reiterate your comments and to thank all of those organisations in advance for not just the work that they're doing within our community, but also for agreeing to become part of the task force and work together with us to ensure that we are better able to deliver support to those who are most vulnerable within the inner west. So, you know, at a time when these organisations are already probably under more demand than they perhaps have ever been, in some cases, that commitment is very much appreciated and to be commended. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lockie. Councillor Drury.
I did not wish to speak.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you had your hand up. Councillor Kett, did you have your hand up?
No, that was from the
It's a legacy from before. No, that's fine. Are there any other councillors that want to speak to this item? Otherwise, I'm happy to waive my...
Madam Mayor?
Councillor Stamlis, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, just
yes, please go ahead.
Sorry?
Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Stamlis.
Just very quickly, could we be provided with just a little bit more information about this group? Would there be an intention that it would even continue on post-COVID? That's my first question.
So look, I'm happy to answer that in the first. It was convened during the lockdown and obviously targeted specifically the response to coronavirus. The response is very positive, and I think there is an indication from the members that they would be interested in continuing beyond the crisis moment that we're still in. Let's not consider just because lockdown finished on Friday that has finished for many people. I work in the disability community, for example, and in the disability community, lockdown is still very much present and is still functioning. Very many people in the disability community consider themselves completely locked down because of their vulnerability to the virus. And I think you'll find there's quite a number of communities in a similar situation for various reasons. So lockdown theoretically might be ending for the young and able, but it's not rendered for many people. And again, those people are the people who will continue to need assistance, and these organisations will continue to step up as council will continue to step up. Does that answer your question, Councillor Stamlis?
Yeah, that answers the first question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's very positive, because I'd see that this group could have a strong future, and it'd be great for council to set up those connections. So that's wonderful. In terms of reporting back to councillors, will we be receiving minutes or be invited to attend meetings?
So I think it would be fine to send minutes out to the councillors, and it wouldn't be a particular issue if you wanted to attend a meeting, I don't think. I'll just refer that to the General Manager. If you could respond on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to circulate minutes after those meetings. It's just the logistics of having trying to line the meetings up with all the parties if other councillors so wish to attend. There's a lot of people. The challenge in the meetings that I've been with, we really want to hear from all the NGOs, and I suppose the main thing is we get their points, we hear what their issues are, and we minute that so we can take some action. But there is a bit tricky logistically in those meetings if there's a lot of people and they all want to talk, we just don't seem to have the time. So,
is there anything
Thank you
else
for that.
you want to ask, Councillor
Very
Stamlis?
positive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
May I speak?
Yeah, please go ahead, Councillor Passos. Yeah.
Well, I can't vote for this.
It's all right.
I have not seen any minutes, what their terms of reference are of what they do?
It's in the, that's actually there, Councillor Passes.
No,
It's in the report.
No, I cannot see how this task force should continue when COVID is over. We have the health, we have hospitals, we have the health department, we have professional people that if there's any problem that should be taking over any ongoing problems with this, or if any money is being is required. This is just put in front of us and we're asking us for this to continue. Continue doing what? Where other agencies are not already looking after this, more professional than what we are. I'm not taking anything away from the leaders of NGOs. They're a community group. I don't know what their health professionalism is. I'm afraid I can't support this. I don't know enough. And we hope we never have to hear the word COVID again. And we need to know exactly what they're doing and what are they going to do now that we're out of lockdown, that the other health authorities are not doing and not addressing. We can't just put our hand up on these things. And I don't, just following on from the General Manager's reply, I don't know why logistically it would be a problem for councillors who would want to attend. Why would it be logistically impossible or difficult?
Because we can't get through our own meetings.
Okay, Councillor Passes, thank you for your comment.
Mayor, you can laugh at those interjections. That's all right.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Passes. Councillor, is there any more? Is there any other councillor? Thank you, Councillor Passes. Councillor, is there any other councillor that wants to speak on this item? Okay, otherwise, I'll waive my right of reply and I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And I believe that's unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Passes, for voting for that.
Oh, I'm opposed.
Oh, okay, you had your hand up. Okay, so who's opposed is Councillor Passes. Thank you. Just to clarify the numbers there, Catherine, can you just bring that back up? So we have Councillor York is retired, is that correct?
That is correct.
So,
and I had everyone's for except Councillor Passes.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is item 8, the opening of the outdoor aquatic centres.
I'll move that.
Let's move.
I'll move the recommendation on the paper.
Moving the recommendation, and is there a
I second that.
Seconded by Councillor Kiat. Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Lockie?
No, look, only just to commend Simon Duck and our entire aquatics team for getting open as soon as we were able to. That was no mean feat, and I'm particularly pleased that the indoor pools have been reopened as well, and that we were able to get those up and running straight away, despite having very little time in order to get that off the ground. I know it's something that many members of our community have been hanging out for, and I, for one, look forward to actually starting to use the 10 visit pass I have for Annette Kellerman Aquatic Centre that I bought immediately before we went into lockdown. So looking forward to flailing about on in the pool on those first couple of attempts back in. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lockie. Councillor Kiat, did you want to speak to the item, please?
Yeah, look, I want to echo that gratitude to Simon and all the staff who've worked really hard. You know, we've spoken about how difficult it's been for businesses reopening, and you know, obviously same for officers. So thank you, and to all the staff who work at the pools. Already been down to Ashfield and Petersham and had a lot of fun. I've had a short email exchange with Simon about the issue of opening hours. At the moment, the opening hours for Ashfield Pool for summer are listed as at closing at 6 p.m, which is different to, for example, Leichhardt Park Aquatic Centre. So I would just like to get some more information about whether we can look at keeping Ashfield Pool open a little bit later over this summer. I guess both because of you know, the difference between it and other pools that we run, but also because I think, particularly on the weekends, I think we'll be seeing residents really wanting to enjoy the summer after this lockdown and spending some time together at the pool. We know that it can stay warm and light until later in the evening. So I think it would just be good to get some more information from the officers on that. So I'm just asking that come back to a November meeting.
Okay, so you've got an amendment which you've provided to the minute.
Would you like me to resend that, or have you got it?
Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got an amendment here. Councillor Lockie, are you happy for that to be incorporated into the primary motion as the mover of the motion?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that becomes point 3 in the primary motion. So I've got Councillor McKenna, please go ahead.
Just a question. Is that a COVID timeline that we've got at the moment, or because I'm sure it was open later last summer?
So that's to the relevant officer?
Yes, or to whoever. Councillor Kiat may know.
Well, okay, I'll go to the aquatics manager, who I believe is here this evening.
Thank you, through the chair. The standard hours to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday have been in place since we opened, but certainly happy to come back and review those hours in light of being 12 months in and the success and the busyness of the pool. I think that would be a good idea.
And so just a second question is, are they open later on weeknights?
Yes, weeknights it does go through to 9 p.m. for the gym.
Right.
That's just sort of a standard.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other councillors that want to speak on this item? Councillor Stamalos.
A question through the chair, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering whether the senior manager could advise us of how the opening's gone and whether or not we've been inundated and whether it's all been managed well. Thank you.
Okay, so I might put that to the senior aquatics manager again.
Yep. Thank you, through the chair. Look, I am really pleased with the openings of the aquatic centres. The staff did a tremendous job, and we had all of our rosters and other things planned in advance. Our pool heating and other critical things were done in advance. We were able to plan our opening and stay abreast of the public health orders and other information. We also had the benefit of having really good core staff on board and working through the pandemic period so that we could ensure we were ready to open when the time came to open. That stood us in good stead, certainly around communicating with our members, being ready to adjust to information as it was presented to us, being able to quickly adjust to systems around doing COVID checks and other things. And it was an incredible short turnaround, but one that was very successful. And again, I'd certainly like to thank the efforts of my team for what we are able to achieve.
Thank you. Are we getting big volumes through at the moment of people?
Yeah, through the chair. We certainly very popular when we open the outdoor pools. You know, all the lap swimmers and those that use the aquatic centres for their exercise in that first week of opening came back. We had some good numbers around those warmer days and across the long weekend and things of that nature. In opening the fitness services and other services yesterday, we've had really good numbers. It's encouraging, but all of the systems that we had in place prior to the lockdown, we've been able to reinstate. So our booking systems for group fitness and booking systems for aqua aerobics and other things, all of those systems were able to reactivate. So people had gotten used to those systems. So very encouragingly, people were able to go back and make their bookings and come back to their favourite programs. And it's popular. People are coming back, but it's not over. We're not overrun with people. It's quite orderly and very gives us a lot of confidence that we're doing it right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Great work, and thanks to the team.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Stamalos. Are there any other councillors want to speak on this item? Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Lockie for a right of reply.
No need.
Lockie? Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Councillors, it's very close to 10:30, so I think we need to, I'm going to move that we suspend standing orders and we move into confidential session. So we'll just need to wait a couple of minutes until.
I'll second that, Councillor Porteous.
That's seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. So we'll move into confidential session and we'll reconvene once we've had that confirmed by Catherine.